when we finished Terran Wanderer, where was Terran? Louder, Haley? On his way back home. He hadn't yet arrived. Okay? We have an author's note. We didn't talk about the author's note in the previous book. We do in this one. Go to the second paragraph. I must warn, I'm going to skip the however, I must warn readers of this fifth chronicle to expect the unexpected. How do you expect the unexpected? I mean, if it's unexpected, how do you don't, right? So what's he mean by that? What is always meant when somebody says, expect the unexpected?
Be on guard.
Brace yourself.
Be on guard, brace yourself, or open yourself. Just let whatever happens, happen. Okay? So, its structure is somewhat different, its range wider. Yeah, it's quite a bit different. If there's more external conflict, I've tried to add more inner. Notice, content. That is content inside each character. I kind of wonder if he used the word content because he just didn't want to use the word conflict again, but if he really means by that conflict, inner conflict. We've already seen one major character with a lot of inner conflict, right? Eladir. Okay. I've also tried to, if the form follows that of the traditional hero tale, the individuals, I hope, are genuinely human. That is, he hopes that they don't come across as stock, kind of flat characters. People without any motivation, people that you can't believe in, people that you don't find plausible in their actions. Okay? The final choice, which even faithful Gurgi cannot avoid, is almost too hard to bear. Fortunately, it's never offered to us in the real world, at least not in such unmistakable terms. What's the final choice? You don't know until you get to literally the last couple pages. Okay? So, the High King. Terran comes home. Don't have to say anything else about that. He gets home. Who's waiting for him? Most importantly, who's waiting? It's not Colin Dalton. Okay? He can wait a little while to go up and shake their hands. It's Eilonwy. Okay? And my book's not going to agree with me. She says, page 5, I've been waiting to see you for days after all the time I've been away, learning to be a young lady, as if I weren't one before. Well, in terms of the manners of a young lady, she wasn't one before. She was a good old tom girl. When I'm home at last, notice, when I'm home, what's she saying? This is her home. Okay? You're not even here. Well, what else would be her home? She just went to Mona to learn how to be a lady, to learn how to be a princess, really to learn how to be a queen. Okay? Just, they were going to marry her off to Ruth. So what would really be her home? What happened to it? It sank, right? Atlanta Smith kind of a thing. Okay? So, he runs to her side. She's wearing at her throat the crescent moon of silver, on her finger the ring crafted by the fair folk. Now she has a band of gold around her brow. Why? Because she is a princess, after all. And she goes on talking about living in the castle and stuff. And then she kind of stops. She finally, for once, seemingly, shuts up. Okay? Steps back and looks at him. Page 5 at the bottom. Eilonwy stopped abruptly and looked curiously at Terran. That's odd. There's something different about you. It's not your hair, though it does. There she goes, ever with the, little snide comment. Though it looks as if you cropped it yourself with your eyes shut. Like Stevie Wonder's giving you a haircut, It's, notice, she can't put her finger on it. There's something different about him, but she doesn't know what. I can't quite say. I mean, unless you told someone, they'd never guess you were an assistant pig keeper. As if he walks around with, assistant pig keeper emblazoned on his forehead. Okay, now, by saying this, what's she implying about when she saw him before? you kind of carried yourself like an assistant pig keeper. Now, how does an assistant pig keeper carry himself? Stands up tall, chest out, shoulders back, like a Marine? No, just kind of, Now, what's he do? He's like a Marine. Why? What did his wanderings do? They taught him self-respect, which is really important in Terrance's case, because he thought he was what? Only an assistant pig keeper. Okay, what else? What can someone having self-respect do to the people that are around that person? What effect does that have on others?
Make them respect you.
Bingo.
Yeah.
It draws respect. Why? Because that person with let's qualify this. That person with proper self-respect, not arrogance. Okay? Self-respect that is earned, in other words. That is earned by what the person has done, often confers about that person, around that person, and to other people, kind of a sense of authority. You can have authority that merely comes with a job title. Does that mean that the people, quote unquote, beneath you automatically respect you? Look at the current president. Yeah, I don't care your politics. I voted for him. I'll put that out there. Do people, quote unquote, respect him because of that? Because he has the title president? Nope. A lot of people didn't respect Obama when he had that title. A lot of people didn't respect Bush, Clinton, Bush, Reagan, Carter, Ford, Nixon, Johnson. We can go all the way back to the first. I once had a student, writing class, mention in a paper something about the American troika. A troika is a group of three, okay? I was like, what's he talking about? And he goes on, and his American troika, these are three bad leaders of America, were, if I can remember off the top of my head, Jefferson, Lincoln, who was the third one? FDR, some of the... This guy said these are like the three worst presidents. Okay? I am convinced this guy was a member of the KKK because of comments that were embedded in his paper and things he said in class. Okay? Because he was talking about emancipation and all that kind of stuff. So she looks at him, and Taryn laughs. But notice, he laughs fondly. This isn't a satirical, he's tearing her down kind of laugh. Alas, it's been long since I last tended henwin. In other words, I've not tended pigs for a long time. When we journeyed among the folk of the free Canucks, Gergie and I told it nearly everything but pig keeping. So he explains maybe a little why he looks different. Not physically, but he does say, the cloak I'm wearing, I made it. What does that say? I'm a little bit self-sufficient now, okay? The sword, I forged it. And this, and he pulls out of his cloak a little bowl, and he says, and you can have it. I brought this for you. Such as it is, I made it the wheel of analog clay shaper. If it pleases you, it's yours. Notice that if it pleases you. If it doesn't please you, give it back. Because I made it and I don't want anything. It's lovely. Yes, I shall treasure it. But that's what I mean. What's what she means? I'm not saying you aren't a good assistant pig keeper. I'm sure you're the best in Purdue, but there's something more. And call the old wise warrior, not old like with a, not that kind of old, but the guy who's been around the block, who's seen a lot of battles. He cuts through what she's trying to say and says, he left us a pig keeper and comes back looking as if he could do all he set his hand to, whatever. What's the whatever imply?
He could do anything.
He can do anything. Will anyone ever say that about Donald Trump, for example, and diplomacy? Will he be a good diplomat? Because to be a diplomat, to really be diplomatic, what art must you really master? John Kerry supposedly had this, people said.
Charisma.
No, nobody ever said Kerry had charisma. Subtlety. Subtlety. Nuance. You have to be able to finely shade words and their meanings. Trump? No fine shade. It's a 20-pound sledgehammer. Okay? The nuance and everything, it's a scalpel. The other one's a 10-pound axe. Okay? He comes back looking what? He can do pig keeping. He can also do what? He can lead men into war. We've seen that, right? When Dorath and the Raiders went after the one Kamat, he kind of led them, taught them how to. Terran, nah. I learned I was neither. Notice, Terran saying, I can't do anything I want. I'm neither swordsmith. I can't make a great sword. I mean, this sword will work. I'm not a great weaver, nor alas a shaper of clay, because that's what I really like to do. I just like to spend my day sitting at a potting wheel, making little clay tips, gumbies, Gurgi and I were already homeward bound when call found us, and here shall we stay. That is, Kier Dalbin's big enough for me. I don't need what? Go back to the first book. Why does he want to leave? He's looking for two things.
Glory.
Glory, and what comes with glory?
Fame.
Honor. Now, all the glory and honor I seek are what I get from washing the pigs. Alanush, that's good, because we, heard stories. And she asked, I still don't know why you left. I don't understand. Terran, it's little to understand. What I sought, I found. It's not what I'd hoped for. Well, what did he seek? Who am I? Who is he? He is he. That's what he found out. And nobody else. Okay? Dalbin. When Terran says, it was not what I had hoped. Right? What did he hope? Royalty. Mom and dad were a king and queen. Or at least somewhat related to him. Like fifth cousin 7 times removed, at least. Dalbin. Notice, Dalbin murmurs this. What do you do when you murmur something? Every now and then I'll hear in class, murmur. It means you don't say it out loud. It's almost like Dalbin is talking to himself. No, it's not. What's the no, it was not me? Terran, what I sought I found, though it was not what I had hoped. No, it wasn't. You're right. You didn't find what you're looking for. You found more than you sought. And I think Terran's kind of like, what? Crazy old man? What do you mean I found more than I sought? And gained perhaps more than you know. Okay? So, King Rune comes in, no longer Prince Rune. Parents died, etc., etc. And we're going to skip a bunch. Fluter. No, page 10. Very end of page 9, top of page 10. Alonwi gives him this thing that she's woven. So she's been practicing weaving too. Actually, it's an embroidery. Okay? What is it? Okay. Hen is on it. It's a banner. So it's this somewhat elongated piece of cloth. And there's Henwin, we're told, top of page 10. A straggle-threaded embroidery showed a white, blue-eyed pig against a field of green. She says, it's meant to be Henwin. I tried to embroider you into it too, because you're so fond of Hen, and I was thinking of you, but you came out looking like sticks with a bird's nest on top. Not like yourself at all. So I have to start over with Hen alone. You'll just have to make believe you're standing beside her, a little to the left. Well, what did Terran have to do with his cloak? He had to start over from the beginning because he didn't like how it came out. Okay? Why is this important? It's foreshadowing. What is this going to become?
His banner.
His banner. His battle standard. When he gets ready, march into battle, they're going to run that up on a pole. And it's going to be the army of the pig, you know. Ooh, scary. Okay? So, Taryn finally tells her, page 11, you asked why I sought to know my parentage? Because I hoped it would prove noble and give me the right to ask what I dared not to ask before. My hope was mistaken, yet even without it. And there's a break. What was he going to say? We don't know for sure. What do you think he was going to say? Would you still consider marrying me? That's, I think, surely what he was going to say. But at that point, Fluter shows up. And there's Gwydion, bottom of page 11. And notice what Taryn does. Well, what's he been doing for the last several months?
Living his own life.
Living his own life. What else?
Fending for himself.
Fending for himself. Defending himself. Taking charge. Taryn says, when Eilonwy cries out, Lord Gwydion is slain. Taryn, nope, still alive, just barely. He orders Gurgi, fetch medicines, the healing herbs from my saddlebags. And then he looks at Dalbin. Sorry. I'm in Dalbin's house. Dalbin's like, 385 years old at this point. Taryn's still 18, maybe even younger, maybe 17. Possibly 19. I don't think there's a chance he's in his 20s. Forgive me, it is not for me to command under my master's roof. But the herbs are of great power. Adion, son of Taliesin, gave them to me long ago. You can use them if you want. Dalbin, I know what they are. I don't have any that will work any better. But that's not important. What is important? Nor should you fear to command under any roof. Okay, what does any roof imply? Because we do know there are some other more exalted roofs in Predate, right? Like what's the most exalted one? Cairdathel, where Math, the king, lives. When Dalbin says this, he's kind of saying, and if you wanted to take command even at the castle, nobody's going to stop you, kid. Nor should you fear to command under any roof. Why? Since you have learned to command yourself. What does that mean? Don't write on the board with the yellow marker. What does that mean? He's learned to command himself. Book 5 in the Harry Potter series. This is the virtue Harry must learn in that book. It's it's not the controlling theme, but it is a controlling theme. Self-control. Notice what that means. You want to do something and you do it. Not if you have self-control. Self-control says just before you do it, stop, think. Don't act first. What does he do with Gwydion when he hears Gurgi in the thorn bush? He dives in thinking Gwydion's under danger. Gwydion at first thinks, stupid fool. And then he realizes he really thinks I'm in danger. Okay? Taryn doesn't practice any self-control there. All right? Now, Dalbin says, you have learned that. Right? His final battle with Doroth. Does he kill Doroth? Oh, he might regret it. In this book. We're going to see Doroth crop up his ugly head again. You've learned to command yourself. I trust your skill as I see you trust it. You heal him. Have at it. Okay? So, Achrin comes in, and Fluter tells him what happened, and this was going to be one of the quiz questions. How did Aran trick Fluter and Gwydion? Sorry.
He was disguised as
He was disguised as Terran. How?
Technically, he wasn't even really disguised because it wasn't him himself. It was just his power.
Exactly. He wasn't really even there. He was projecting an image of Terran, which tells us Terran has done what for himself?
Made himself known.
To Satan. Satan now knows who he is. Okay? He's on Satan's radar, so to speak. That tells us what?
He's a threat.
Not just a pig keeper. Exactly. He's a threat. Okay? And so he uses the threat to try to get rid of what? Probably the next greatest threat, or the greatest threat, Gwydion. Okay? So, Ocaran explains it's Iran and such. In the Letter Sticks chapter, we get a little bit of Ocaran's backstory. Terrence kind of starts it off a bit of a downer, saying we're all screwed. If Iran can come out of the Nuban, she says no, he can't, etc. Page 17. Ocaran says, long before the sons of Dawn came to dwell in Prydain, long before the lords of the Cantros swore allegiance to Math, High King, and Gwydion, his war leader, it was I who commanded obedience to my rule. I who wore the iron crown of a Nuban. So, she's got a bit of a sore point when it comes to Gwydion and his family. Okay? Iran was my consort. Queen Elizabeth's husband, Prince Philip, is called her consort. He's not king. He's her husband. So she's saying, kind of like, we were married. Who served me and did my bidding. And he betrayed me. He robbed me of my throne, cast me aside. His powers are no secret to me. It was I who taught them to him. So she's saying, if she taught them to him, then what were her powers in relation to his? Greater. But one of the reasons I think that Alexander mentions, this is a kind of a standard heroic tale. If you know anything about standard heroic tales in mythology, what must the student / pupil always do? Overcome the master. And so we get, if you strike me down, I'll become even more powerful than you can ever imagine. And then where is he? And he's, everywhere. Okay? So they keep talking, and page 18, Dalbin says, all finished taking care of Gwydion. Terrence kept him alive. Now I'll bring him back to real life. Okay. Ocaran says to all of them, Eilonwy says to all of them, when Ocaran says, I will keep watch over Gwydion at night, Eilonwy says, I will keep watch over Gwydion. Fear me not, daughter of Angarad. Ocaran says, I bear no ill will against Lord Gwydion. She bows deeply, half humble, half mocking. Well, how can you tell? How can you tell half of it's humble and half of it's mocking? The stable is my castle and the scullery my realm. I seek no other. Is that half humble, half mocking, that statement? Is she saying, as she bows, the stable is my castle, the scullery is my realm, and is she silently thinking, until I get a better chance, stab the little. I don't think so. I don't think so. What did Gwydion give Ocaran at the end of Castle of Lear? A chance.
Yeah, wasn't she gonna kill herself?
She was gonna kill herself, and he stopped her. He gave her her life back. He said, live. Okay? Well, that's going to be important later on. Okay? So they continue talking. In page 19, I never noticed it till today. I've been teaching this book, 5 years, I think. Until I was literally just kind of flipping through pages, highlighting some things. Page 19. Rune's been sitting in, listening to all of us. It's Rune. Okay, so how much of it has he probably understood?
None.
Yeah, maybe 10%. Most of it, he's looking, oh, look, a butterfly, So, Rune says, amazing, who had been watching wide-eyed. He's just stunned by everything he's heard. I say, I wish I could do that sort of shape-changing myself. Unbelievable. I've always thought how interesting to be a badger or an ant. I should love to know how to build as well as they do. Since I've been king, I've tried to improve things, etc. And he talks about things he's tried to improve. What struck me? I wish I could do that sort of shape-changing myself. Well, has everybody finished this? Okay. He does, doesn't he? He's not a bumbling fool, is he? How do we see that? I mean, not too many pages after this.
He sacrifices himself.
That's pretty big shape changing from when we first see him as he's leading Elonwy on the gangplank to the ship and he falls overboard into the water. Okay? And Terran thinks, he should not be a prince. He doesn't act like a prince. And Terran has all kinds of bad thoughts. Okay? But he goes on in here and he talks about all the things he's trying to do. In other words, he's trying to be what kind of king? A good one. Is he thinking about himself? Is he thinking about what Terran thought of as heroes? His glory? His honor? No. He's thinking what? Public works projects. How can I improve the sewage? How can I improve the harbor? How can I improve the people's lives out there? Okay? And then we see Glue, and I don't want to talk about Glue. I don't want to talk about Glue until we get almost to the end, which is why Glue is even here. He's here for almost everything because of really two things that he does towards the end of the novel. Two things that kind of cause some things to fall into place. Okay?
Literally.
Well, yeah. No pun intended, I should have said. Okay? So, Gwydion is finally able to speak, and he tells them, pages 22 and following, about Dernwin, the sword. Why is this important?
He's missing.
Because it's missing. Who took it from him? The writers who, when Oran sent the image of Terran, Gwydion took out after him, and then he was bushwhacked, if you want, ambushed by the riders. They took the sword. So, bottom of 22. Dernwin's lineage is as ancient as Prydain itself. Much of its history has been forgotten or destroyed. For long the blade was thought no more than legend, matter for a harper's song, or for, Aragorn to reforge the sword that was broken in Lord of the Rings, or for Arthur to have Excalibur. There's always a sword somewhere, okay? And the whole Arthurian sword, myth, by the way, just in case you've never heard this before, some scholars think the Arthurian myth goes back to ancient Scythia, land north of Greece, where there is a myth of a king who will pull a sword out of a rock. And this thing is like 1,000 years before the first element of the Arthur tale. So, swords are important in myth, okay? So, for long the blade was thought no more than legend, matter for a harper's song, Taliesin chief part is wisest in the Lord Prydain, but even he could tell me only that Govanian the Lame, Govanian is a goddess in Celtic mythology, master craftsman, forged and tempered Dernwin at the behest of King Rudir, whatever, weapon of greatest power, and so there's a spell cast upon it. Elonwy, I remember the writing. I'll never forget it. It had an impossible time keeping Terran from meddling with things. Notice she has to get that little dig in whenever she can. Draw Dernwin only thou of royal blood. Gwydion, noble worth. She originally said noble birth when they first see the sword. Gwydion, The enchantment forbade the sword to all but those who would use it wisely and well. Flame of Durnwin would destroy any other who sought to draw it, and Terran kind of probably goes, I remember what that feels like. But the writing on the scabbard has been marred. That is, we don't know what it fully says. So he talks about the guy who bore the blade, what happened with how it got passed down to his sons after him, and how the princess pulled it out of the spiral castle before they left. Okay? So, Terran gets to the heart of the matter. Can Iran use this thing? Well, what would that imply? That Iran could be of noble worth? Can he turn the weapon against us? Can he make it serve some evil end? Gwydion, I don't know. That's the danger. We've got to stop him. We've got to get it back. Okay? So, Akron says, let me go after it. You forced life, page top of 24. You forced life upon me, Gwydion, when I begged for death. Give me what I live for. Give me my vengeance. Let me get that. I mean, part of this, I could be wrong. Woman scorned. Bad idea. I can't give you vengeance, he says. Gwydion says, I do not scorn you. I only urge you to accept Dalbin's protection. Stay here in safety among all of us. Your hope of finding the sword is least, etc., etc. Okay? So, they go to Henwin. Why? She's a prophetic pig, an oracular pig. Okay? And we get the prophecy, chapter 3. Dalbin says, I asked how Durnwin might be recovered. Page 31. Here's the answer. That is, these are what the rune sticks spelled out. Ask sooner mute stone and voiceless rock to speak. Mute stone. That is stone without a voice. And voiceless rock. Rock without a voice. To speak. Such is Henwin's message as I have read it from the first letter stick. He says it could be a refusal to speak, it could be a prophecy in and of itself, or it could be a warning, don't go any further. So, he says, here's the rest. Quenched will be Durnwin's flame, vanished its power, night turned to noon, and rivers burn with frozen fire, ere Durnwin be regained. Okay? That was the second stick. He says, third stick was destroyed. Don't know what it said. Okay? Gwydion, page 32. Well, damn. I'm paraphrasing. Well, damn. Henwin's prophecy is disheartening. Duh. Far from what I had hoped. But when prophecies give no help, men must find it of themselves. If the gods won't speak to us, what? Think what Amlo says. We have to shape our own lives. Let's get busy then. Let's get down to it. Okay? As long as life and breath are mine, I will seek. And this is my sole task now. Okay? Terran says, if such is your will, that is, because Gwydion says, I'm going to go looking for it. Terran says, if that's your will, who's going to stop you? But let me throw out a possibility here. What if Caw were to fly ahead to Anubis? Send him first. He'll go swiftly, bring back whatever knowledge he can gain. That is, he can report back, send him as a spy. Gwydion, pretty good. You gain some wisdom. Okay? Your plan is sound. But I won't wait for him here. So, he says, I'm going to go off to King Smoit's. Terran says, well, we can ride with you as far as Smoit, and then, we can decide what we're going to do there, or we can join with you there, okay? Let's skip a bit. Bottom of 37. Let's see Call is rummaging through the stables and forge and tool sheds for weapons. He pulls out bean poles that were once spears, okay, and other stuff. And he says, these served me well as bean poles, etc., etc. And then he says, in you, my lad, as Terence helping him, I remember a day when an assistant pigkeeper would have been all flash and fire to ride with Lord Gwydion. That is, why didn't you argue? Why did you, just jump at the chance? Now you look as glum as a frostbitten turnip. I myself would ride to a Nuven, Terence says. And what you say is true. The boy I was, this would have been a bold adventure, full of glory. But he sums up what's keeping him from doing that. This much have I learned. A man's life weighs more than glory, and the price paid in blood is a heavy, heavy reckoning. That is, it's a heavy price to pay. Terence is saying, not everything's worth dying for. Glory isn't worth dying for. My heart is not easy. Long ago, you made your way to Nuven to rescue Hen after she'd been stolen. Tell me, what chance is Gwydion? Nobody has a better chance than he does, okay? So, bottom of 38, top of 39. Rune's talking about his seawall, and Terence notices Rune and thinks about him, and we're told this is what Terence thinks. Rune was no longer the feckless princeling he had known on the Isle of Mona. As Rune was absorbed in the tasks he had planned, so Terence had been caught up in his own labors at forge, loom, and potter's wheel. In other words, just as Terence had been transformed and changed by his labors, Rune has been transformed by his labors. And if Rune had found manhood in ruling a kingdom, Terence had found the same, and toiling among the staunch folk of the free Kamats. He watched Rune with new affection. The king of Mona spoke on, and Terence's interest was drawn to the scratching on the ground. So, as Rune sketches out his plan, Terence says, I think if you do this, adding his 2 cents, okay, Rune, amazing, quite right. You got to come and help me finish. Why is that little scene significant? Or is it? Maybe I'm just crazy. What's it show on both Terence and Rune's part? More Runes, I want to say, than Terence. Terence merely trying to help a friend. Rune's a king, right? And yet he's listening to, taking advice of.
That he can give commands and take advice.
He's showing this aspect of humility that Terence has learned some of, okay? But he's not learned it like Rune shows it here, okay? Page 40, towards the bottom. Gwydion's talking about Aran's treasure house in Anuven. And he uses the word treasure, and he glues like, treasure? Treasure? The Death Lord's domain is as much a treasure house as a stronghold of evil. Long has it been filled with all the fair and useful things Aran has stolen from Predan. These treasures do not serve him. His purpose is to deprive, to keep their use from men, to sap our strength by denying us what might yield a richer harvest than any of us here is known. So notice what he says. Why does Aran want all these things? To use them for his purposes? Nope. To deny others from using them. Why? Because what do these things provide for, let's say, us, if we had them? Never-ending bounty? Crops that would grow, cattle and livestock that would flourish and such? What does Anlaw say? The ability to make the kinds of pottery that hasn't been made for years? I could pull up on the screen images of jewels made in the 7th century in the north of England. That we don't have anybody in the world today that could make those, or manuscripts. That we don't have anybody in the world today who has the technical expertise to do it. The skill has been lost. Okay? That kind of thing. So, while he's saying this, we're told glue sucks his teeth. He's thinking, how can I get that? Why? Because it's something he can bargain with. So, King Smoit's castle. Chapter 4. Gwydion, Taran, Coll, Gurgi go in. And who do they see? Mag. Who's Mag?
Steward.
Since we didn't talk about him.
The steward from Castle of Lear.
The steward of Castle of Lear, who was serving Ochran. Okay. What's happened to Smoit?
He's been in prison.
He's locked up. Who else gets imprisoned, obviously?
They
Yeah, all of them do. Okay. So, who's not there?
do. Run.
Fluter, Rune, and Alonwi.
Gurgi?
Yeah.
Gurgi.
No, Gurgi's there.
He's
Gurgi's wherever Taran is. Okay. How fearsome are Alonwi, Rune, and Fluter? Not very. Okay. Alonwi's pretty.
No, Lion. Lion's pretty.
Oh, Leon. Yeah, the cat. Yeah, I mean that'd be,
She's pretty good.
you know, but and the cat's dead. Okay? I mean, or even a spear from here to that wall, and the cat's dead. Okay. So we find out Aran has promised Mag that he would be second to the Death Lord, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to skip a bunch. Chapter 5, the Watcher. So they make their way towards Smoit's, and we're told bottom of 54, top of 55.
Glue's with him too.
That's right, Glue is with them. They see Caer Cadarn, that is Smoit's castle. Okay, little distance off. They see Smoit's banner hanging beyond the trees in the clearing. Iolani looks at it. She's thinking, something's not right with this image. I mean, I see Smoit's jolly old bear, but Gwydion surely must be there by now, and I don't see the banner of the House of Dun. Big deal. What's she getting at? What is Lloyd Alexander getting at?
She's learned some things.
Okay, what else? Any of you ever been to London? If you have a chance to go to London when the Queen is at Buckingham Palace. That is living at Buckingham Palace. Because when the Queen is at Buckingham Palace, the flag is flying from the flag mast at the roof of the palace. When the Queen is not there, there's no flag flying. So, if you're walking around on the Mall, what we would call Mall, and you see the flag, you know automatically, you don't have to ask anybody, the Queen is in residence. Similarly, if you go up to Edinburgh, and you see the flag at the Holyrood Palace, Queen's there. If you go to Balmoral, and the flag is flying, the Queen's at Balmoral. Wherever the Queen is, the flag is flying. Wherever the Queen is not, the flag is not. That is the particular location. Okay? What this is indicating is wherever Gwydion is, his banner should be flying. Why?
It's a sign of respect.
Sign of respect. He's the prince. He's next in line to the throne. And probably at Smoit's, you'd have Smoit's banner, and Gwydion's would be up above it. Because he outranks Smoit. Even though this is Smoit's little kingdom, Gwydion's bigger kingdom swallows it up, so to speak. Okay?
Well, is Smoit a kingdom inside of
Yeah.
Guardians?
Yeah. Because what's Gwydion? If Gwydion were to become king, what's his kingdom?
Prydain.
All of Prydain. Smoit's kingdom would be like what? Texas. Okay? There'd be an individual, like a state.
So he's more like a nobleman? But he has a nobleman under him, so he's like a king.
Who? Gwydion or Smoit?
Smoit.
They're both noblemen. It's just that Gwydion is a higher rank.
Right.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, Smoit's a king.
Feudal lord? What's
Yeah,
called?
yeah.
Owns land.
Like a duke. Like a duke. Okay? But in this world, he's a king in Celtic mythology. And in early British literature, you had several lowercase kings. But then you had, as math is called, the High King. The king who rules over all the other kings. All the other kings owe allegiance to him. So if math were to issue a call, I need all the warriors to come, it would be the lesser king's job to send their men off to battle, okay? To answer the call of the High King. So, Alonvi looks at that and she goes, how come Gwydion's flag isn't flying? Why is Alonvi thinking this? Why not Fluter? He's a king. He doesn't look like one, he doesn't act like one, he doesn't sing like one, definitely. Okay? Why doesn't Fluter pay attention to this? Where's Alonvi been during the last book?
Training.
Learning and training for what?
To be a queen.
To be a lady, to be a queen. That means learning all that stupid diplomatic protocol stuff, like make sure you fly the flag. All right? Queen Teleria taught me it is courtesy for a cantrip noble to fly the golden sunburst of dawn when one of the royal house visits him. So you do this. What about Dalbin? Dalbin's not a cantrip noble. I mean, if Gwydion wants to run his flag up outside Dalbin's, hovel, it's not a house. It's, a daub and wattle mud cottage. Thank you. Not what I was going to say, but better. Okay? So, Fluter, in ordinary circumstances, that's true. But Gwydion probably doesn't want to announce everybody, I'm here. Oh, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, how clever of you, Fluter. Notice that little buttering up and down. The bard beamed happily. Oh, she liked me. She liked what I said. Experience, princess. How old is Fluter? We're told at one point he's in his 40s. I love he's like 15, maybe 16. And he's got, she praised me. Ooh, that's nice. Long experience, but never fear, such wisdom will come to you in time. Even so, she notices something else. The gates are closed. So Gwydion's banner isn't flying and the gates are closed. Well, so what? But they know we're coming. So shouldn't the gates be open? I mean, Smoit, you might have supposed, would have flung them wide open, a guard of honor waiting for us, with King Smoit himself at their head. After all, who is coming? Princess Eilonwy, King Rune of Mona, King Fluter of wherever. Northern country. No. Gwydion follows a path of danger. I've been on 1,000 secret missions. And it stops. Well, maybe one or two, because, that string starts. Oh, yeah, I'm sure you know much more than I do. But Smoit isn't at war with his neighbors, as I've heard. 2 watchmen on the walls would be more than enough. Doesn't need a whole party of... So, she's really doing what? She's scoping out this situation. He doesn't have 2 watchmen on the walls. He has a whole party of bowmen. Okay, so why do you put bowmen on a castle wall? What kind?
Long distance.
Long distance. With a longbow, you could hit somebody a couple hundred yards. That means they can't get close. You come out of the trees and you fall dead. Fluter. Well, yeah, they're there to protect Gwydion. But if no one knows Gwydion's there, and Fluter's like, damn it, woman. And he starts to, what? Listen. He listens to her. But if he's not, then why not? What could have happened? If he is, then there. But I don't understand. I love me. I don't understand either. All I know, what I don't know is I can't explain, but something doesn't look right. Okay? Yes?
She's coming into womanhood. Could it be a little bit of like a woman's intuition?
Oh, yeah. And in fact, it's not just that she's coming into womanhood. Do I talk about that now? Taliesin will tell her she sees things others don't see, which is kind of women's intuition. But it's like her women's intuition is AAA grade. You know, it's really up there. It's perfect. Okay. She says, I've come all over chills and creeps and I don't like it. Have any of you ever had that experience where you walk into a situation and you just kind of freeze and you get what I like to just call the willies and
You just back out.
you just leave. You just, right? Okay? Yeah, that's what she's talking about. I don't want to walk in there. Okay? Rune, I'll go check it out. I shall frankly rap on the... Rune comes across, still, somewhat as you're bumbling English, because he talks like an Englishman. I'll just walk up there and go, hello, Top, this is Rune, let me in. Fluter, no. I'm sure all is quite well. Bing! So that tells us what? He's lying. He knows it's not well. Okay? Or it's not that he knows it, he doesn't think everything's quite well. He says, one way it looks all right, the other way it all looks wrong. Okay? He says, let me go find out. If anything's wrong, nobody will suspect me. Right. Why?
I'm just a bard.
I'm just a bard, man. I get my guitar and I just go sing songs and make people happy. Kind of. Okay? So, he goes. By nightfall, the girl had grown seriously alarmed. Why? Yeah, he hasn't come back. No word from him. So, Rune says, well, he'd have come back immediately to warn us if there's danger. No doubt Smoit's giving him supper. I'll go see. She says, no, I've got a better idea. Okay? And Fluter shows up. It's Mag. Okay? So they have to come up with a plan. Who shows up? Gwistwol, or Gwist, I can't say it. Gwistwol, something like that. And what does Gwistil have with him? He's like your shady guy. You know, I've been to Times Square a couple times. Back before Rudy Giuliani cleaned it up in the late 90s. In the early 90s, I was there once. And it was like everything you hear about stories about Times Square. People coming up to you in overcoats and doing this. Not flashing you, but watches. Rolex watches, you know.
You mean Rolex?
Yeah. ROLLEX watches. $5,000 watches. Hey, want to buy one for $5? That kind of thing. And he's like this. But these aren't watches. What's he have? Yeah, he's like a walking, John Rambo. I mean, he's got everything you can need to storm a castle. Okay? So, they come up with their plan, and I'm skipping a bunch because time. Find out they have, smoke bombs also. Chapter 6. Clutch of eggs. Rune's like, smoke? Really? He says, yep, smoke. Crack the shell, the egg smoke comes out, etc., etc. Gwydion, if you never see Lord Gwydion, warn him to shun and move at all costs, etc., etc. Okay? So, let's see. Let's see where I want to pick up. Page 69. Rune says, here's what we should do. There are 5 of us, right? Rune, Arlanwi, Fluter, Gwistil, Who am I?
Blue.
And glue, sorry. See, I just keep forgetting him because he's so inconsequential. He says there's 5 of us. Some should climb over the rear wall, the others enter in the gate. Flute or Flam shall have the gates open. Then, while the others attack from the far wall, I shall ride straight through the gates. Hand goes to his sword, head thrown back. He stood before the companions as proudly as if all the kings of Mona were at his side. Ilanwi, no. And I think Fluter will agree. You will serve better if you stay out of the actual fighting unless it's absolutely necessary. Why? Why does she say that?
He's a king. Oh, yeah.
He's a king, and, Joy's right, because of his past. He'll probably fall off his horse and hurt himself, you know. Rune's face is clouded with, you're not a prince anymore. You're king of Mona. Your life isn't altogether your own, don't you see? You have a whole realm of people to think of. We shan't let you take any more risks than you have to. Now, I think, and I'm not 100% positive about this, I think Alexander says that because there's been a lot of quote-unquote literary criticism written about kings in literature who do exactly what Rune's talking about. And they die. And because they die, their people die. One of the kind of long-standing, that is, people keep bringing it up. It kind of goes in and out of fashion. One of the big questions about the Old English poem Beowulf is, I used to teach Beowulf at the graduate level. I had students translate from Old English to English in the entire semester. One of the big questions about Beowulf is, does Beowulf act wisely as a king? I mean, we're told in the poem, he rules for 50 years, and he has 50 years of utter peace. Why? He's Beowulf. Nobody else wants to attack him, because he has the strength of 30 men in each hand group. He fights monsters and kills them all. Okay? But at the end of 50 years, a dragon comes, and a dragon torches his house, and he gets a little upset about that. Beowulf, by the way, at this point, is anywhere from 80 to over 100 years old, depending on how old you think he is at various other parts of the poem. Anyways, so because he gets so angry, Beowulf says, I'm going to kill this dragon. So he has a big old shield of metal made. Why? Because it's a fire-breathing dragon, and he knows a typical shield made out of wood and oxide will just poof. Okay? And he says, I'm going to lead my men into battle. So he picks out 12 men, okay, that he's going to lead. He gets ready for the battle. Let's say this is where the barrow, the cave, where the dragon lives. And Beowulf gets his men, and they march up, and he tells the men, all right, you guys all stay here. Why? Because I'm the dragon killer. I'm the monster killer. None of you have experience with this. All right? And they're all going, okay. It's your funeral, man. So he goes and he fights the dragon. He kills the dragon, but he gets killed in the process. The long and short of it is, what happens to Beowulf's people? The Geats or Yats, however you want to pronounce it, at the end of the poem. Well, the poem tells us one of the survivors, one of those men who survives, who becomes the next king, sends a messenger back to the people who says, Beowulf's dead, and here's what's going to happen. The Swedes, who are our enemies, but we've had them at bay for 50 years because of Beowulf, they're going to attack because they have a beef against us. The Heathobards and Frisians, they're going to attack against us. And we're going to be between the rock and the hard place. And the women are going to get carried off into captivity, and the men are going to die. He essentially says the Geats are going to be annihilated. Okay? We don't know when the poem was originally composed, but what we do know is that historically there were people called the Geats in the 6th century, maybe up to the 7th century, but by the 9th century and 10th century, they were no longer anywhere. They were completely wiped out. Okay? Why? according to many critics of the poem, because of what Beowulf does. Because one character, the guy who becomes king after him, says to everybody, we tried to persuade him to leave the dragon alone. See, before Beowulf goes to fight the dragon, the narrator of the poem tells us the dragon goes back to sleep. Like a dog at night. It goes inside its hoard, it walks around its bed 2 or 3 times, curls up. You've heard the phrase, it's used in Hogwarts, never tickle a sleeping dragon, never rouse a sleeping dragon. That's used in the poem. The dragon sleeps, and when the dragon sleeps, well, just before it woke up this time, it had been asleep for over 300 years. It'll sleep a long time. But Beowulf won't let it sleep. Why? I'm a monster killer. There's a monster. I've got to get my glory. He gets his glory, but he also dies. Okay? So I think that Alexander might have kind of like all of that kind of stuff because he's very well read in mind when he does this, especially when he has Eilonwy say, your life isn't altogether your own. Kings have always got to think of what? If they're good kings,
They're people.
they're people. Here's another example from Old English literature. There's a famous battle. It's a real battle. Do I have time for this? No.
Let's do it.
It's called the Battle of Malden. It occurred in 991. The battle of the English against the Vikings. Okay? Relatively few English, woefully outnumbered by a bunch of Vikings. And the battle occurs on an island in a river. Islands like this. It's a tidal river. So when the tide comes in from the ocean, the river comes in and gets high. When the tide goes back, the river drops. Okay? You can only reach the island when the tide is out. And even then, you can only reach it in single file across a causeway. So you can go across one at a time. The English are here. The Vikings, they're called Danes, are here. The leader of the English is this old warlord, and he says, because he's being challenged by the Vikings, and the poem that tells us this purports to be kind of eyewitness, but it's clearly fiction, but we know the event actually occurred, so kind of like to think, well, maybe it's close. They're saying things like your mother wears army boots when she's not, doing the dog, or things like that. Just all kinds of nasty stuff. The English are turning it back on. Yeah, well, you're a bunch of Viking slime and things like that. So they eventually get around to the point of, yeah, well, if you were real men, you'd let us fight you. You challenge a man's testosterone, and it's just all, Katie Burr at the door. So the leader here, a guy named Beowulf, the poem tells us, because of his overmode. Okay? It's the Old English word. Over means above or super or over. Mode is related to our word, modern English word, mood. But it's not mood. It's pride, spirit. You could even say haughtiness. So it's over pride, super pride, above pride. So what kind of word do we use for someone who has a little bit more pride than they should? Arrogant. Because of his arrogance, he goes, all right, we'll fight you. Come on across. And they get slaughtered. He's like the first one to die. And the poem celebrates their deaths. And it has this old battle-hardened warrior say to the last surviving men who are fighting around Beowulf's dead body that's been hacked up. They're kind of make a shield wall around it and say, as our numbers grow less, we're being whittled down, Our spirit and courage must be the stronger. We're going to die, but we're going to die like men. Essentially, okay? What did Beowulf do? Beowulf acted out of pride. His men didn't. His men acted out of what? Loyalty to him. See, according to J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote a famous little article on this, Beowulf was an ass. His men were good. His men were loyal. He didn't care about his men. He wasn't a good leader. Eilonwy is telling Rune, you've got to be a good leader for your kingdom. Because what happens if he dies? They don't have a king. You have a whole realm to think of. Okay? Eilonwy, your father understood what it means to be a king. You must learn as well as he did. Taran of Caer-Dallben saved my life on Mona. I am in his debt. It is a debt I alone can pay. She says, yeah, but you know, you owe another kind of debt to your people. And what Alexander is bringing up here is the idea of allegiance and where one's allegiance ultimately lies. Rune is saying, because of what Taran did for me, he bound me to him. I owe him this. Eilonwy is saying, you are bound by your birth to your people. That comes first. I know what you want to do. But he has to do what? What did Dallben say about Taran in any room he comes into? He can take control. Why? He has self-command. She's essentially saying to Rune, you have to show self-control. He wants to go, guns a-blazing. You can't. All right? Theirs is the greater claim. Top of 70, excuse me. Okay? So, they go in, they attack, and he gets his own chapter. The King of Mona. Okay? Page 77. Took way too much time on that. Suddenly a mounted figure galloped into the courtyard. It was Rune, astride his dappled gray. Okay, how are things going at this point? Not so great for the heroes. Okay? The King of Mona's boyish face shone with a furious light. As the steed reared and plunged, Rune swung his sword about his head and shouted at the top of his voice, "Bowmen, follow me, all of you into the court." He spun the mare about and beckoned with his sword. His words rang above the clash of arms. "Spearmen, this way, make haste." Taran, he's brought help. Eilonwy's going, there's nobody there. Okay, first of all, if you're leading a charge into an enclosure, you would not have bowmen coming after you. That's utterly ridiculous. Spearmen? Yes. Swordsmen? Yes. Not bowmen. Okay? Bowmen are not for close quarters fighting by any means, unless you can start banging people with your bow. It's not going to do any good. Okay? Fluter, there's no one within miles. Rune had not ceased to gallop back and forth amid the struggling warriors, shouting orders. So what does he do?
He's a bluff. He's calling bluff.
Is it a bluff? Kind of. What's another word for it? It's a diversionary tactic. What does it do? It confuses Mag's men.
Confuses his men too, right?
Well, to some extent, but it helps them. They get the upper hand quickly. Okay? Fluter, middle of 78. He's duped them well. For all the good those eggs and mushrooms did us, it was Rune who turned the trick. Eilonwy says, come, he's hurt, page 79. Rune says, hello, hello. Face is definitely white. Taran, the day is ours. Without you, it would have gone differently. Don't move. He loosens his blood-stained jacket. An arrow had sunk deep in his side. Amazing. I've never been in battle before. I wasn't sure of anything at all. But I say, the oddest things kept running through my head. The seawall. Isn't it surprising? Yes, your plan will work very well. His eyes wander. Okay, where's Taryn? Probably. If you've ever been at somebody in a hospital's sick bed or deathbed, what do you get right up in their face so that they don't have to really work at focusing? Taryn's there and his eyes start to wander. That means he's leaving. And suddenly he looked very young, very lost, a little frightened. I think I shall be glad to be home. He tries to raise himself. Taryn bends down quickly to him. Fluter comes up. I told you we'd have more than our share of trouble, but you pulled us out of it. Taryn, the king of Mona is dead. And what happens? The warriors of Smoit joined them at dusk, and at dusk, horsemen bearing torches rode slowly circling the mound to honor the king of Mona. That is an Anglo-Saxon burial practice. I mean, Alexander intentionally, I think, wants us to think of all those Anglo-Saxon kind of ideologies and practices, and then just encapsulates them right there. He's being buried like a good Anglo-Saxon warrior hero king would be buried. Okay? Taryn, farewell, ruined son of Rudlum. Your seawall is unfinished, but I promise you your work shall not be left undone. If I live, what? I'm going to finish it. Okay? So what has Taryn just done to the dead? He's made a promise. Kind of hard to break a promise to the dead. I mean, metaphorically, mythologically, they kind of have ways of finding you. Okay? So, they start to talk about the plan, so to speak, and what they're going to do. And bottom of 81, top of 82, Gwydion gives Taryn his charge. Okay? Your own task is urgent. You are well known to the folk of the Freecomots. I charge you to raise whatever force you can among them. Lead all who will follow you to Caerdathil. Gurgi and Call will ride with you. And Eilonwy. So, Gwydion's going to do one thing. Taryn's going to do what? He's going to go to the Freecomots, the places that he was in the previous book, and he's going to raise an army from there. They're going to go from there to Caerdathil. Who is going to lead that army? Taryn. Notice, it's not Call. Though Call is the older, wiser, more experienced warrior. He says, Call will go with you. That means you're the leader. Okay? They see Eden. Eden says, bottom of 82, there's no time now to speak of the past. I offer you friendship and this, and he pulls out a sword. It's served once, can serve again. Say where you ride, and I will go with you. Why? Why is Eden willing to serve Taryn?
He got him back his farm.
Got him back his farm. He got the cow. I mean, he's living large, so to speak. Okay? Taryn, your place is with your king. Who's his king? Smoit. Follow him. Hope that you and I will meet on a happier day. Eilonwy, you are a war leader now. In other words, his hopes and desires from book 1, they're now fulfilled. He is one of Gwydion's war leaders. That also is ideology from Anglo-Saxon and Celtic mythology. The High King or the King has war bands. Not just one, multiple. Each one has its own captain. Right? And she says, and this is your emblem, Hinwin. Usually you put something frightening, like a rampant lion, but I guess a big pink pig with blue eyes will do. Okay? So, let's skip a bunch. Caw gets attacked by Gwythaints. Let's see here. Goes to Medwyn. Medwyn kind of heals him up and talks with Caw. 88 and 89. And Medwin knows about the pig keeper of Caradolbin. Can't remember his name, he says on page 89. But he tells all of the animals, serve him faithfully, or he tells Caw particularly, serve him faithfully, for his heart is good. Among all the race of men, he was of the few I would have allowed within my valley. And then he tells the animals, okay, the time has come. What time? All-out battle. So it's not only going to be Oran, the Lord of Anuvan, against the people of Prydain, but now lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, are going to get in the battle. And so he speaks to eagles, he speaks to bears, he speaks to lions and such. Okay. Talks to wolves, and we're told, end of that chapter, which is page 90. He speaks to the two wolves. You, Brennak, and you, Breavale, spread the alarm among your own brethren, among the bears, with paws to smite, arms to crush, among the sharp antlered stags, all forest dwellers, large and small. He had risen to his full height. His hands clenched, his tree roots clenched the earth. The crow watched, awestruck and Medwin. Medwin's eyes flashed, and his deep voice came as a wave of thunder. Maybe not just your average, ordinary, Noah-like character. Speak to them in my name and tell them, such are the words of one who built a ship when the dark waters flooded Prydain, of one who bore their ancient sires to safety. Now against this flood of evil, each nest, each lair must be a stronghold. In other words, turn all the animals loose. Okay? Chapter 9, the banner. So, they make their way, Terran leading, Call and Gurgi and Alanwi, and they meet up with Hevid in the first come-up. He says, page 92, the folk of the Free Kamats honor King Math and the House of Dawn. Okay, we honor them. Okay, notice, they're the Free Kamats. That is, they're not under the lordship of the High King. This is free territory. We honor him, but they will answer only to one they know as a friend and follow him not in obligation but in friendship. And he says, and so let heaven be the first to follow who? Terran,
The Wanderer.
Wanderer. Not Terran of Caradolbin, not Terran, war leader of Gwydion, but Terran, the person I know, the friend. And they all cry out, oh. Okay? He says, you toiled bravely in my smithy, now shall my smithy toil for you. He says, we're going to make you arms. You're going to have enough. Okay? So everybody's he's going to send word out for all the smiths to make weapons. Terran says to him, page 93, you've done your work well, but we still go too lightly armed. I fear all the forges in Prydain will not be enough to serve our needs. Somehow I must find a way. And who speaks next?
Wow.
Who always finds a way? Lanio. And what does Lanio do? Well, look, here's a pitchfork. Great for digging turnips and potatoes. It can also serve as what? You can stab people with it. Okay? So, Lanio says, did you not suppose I'd be along sooner or later? He says, but your wife, your family, etc. He says, yeah, and I got another kid on the way too, but if they're top of 94, if there's ever to be safety in Prydain, I must follow the Wanderer now. So why does Lanio join them? He is protecting his family. He's saying, if I want my family to grow up in peace, I have to leave peace behind. I have to go fight in war. I have seen pitchforks and hay rakes among the common folk. Could not the tines be cut off and set in wooden shafts? Yes. So you could take one pitchfork with 4 tines and make 4 weapons out of it. Thus would you gain 3, 4, and even more weapons. Heaven. Well, that's a damn good idea. Like nobody had ever thought of that. Terran, I didn't think of that. Lanio sees more sharply than any of us. He calls it luck, etc. So, Terran says, Lanio, you go talk to Heaven and you kind of look at stuff and repurpose it all. Okay? So he keeps walking, they keep going on. And they go to the valley of Great Osrin. And he hears a voice he recognizes. Wanderer, you seek warriors, not crowns, but wait a moment. And it's Druidic, the Weaver woman. Okay? And she says something about Ilanwi, and Ilanwi smarts off. Okay? And Druidic says, but meanwhile, child, she unfolds her cloak in her withered hands, sets it about Ilanwi's shoulders. Take this as a gift from a crone to a maiden, and I know there is not so much difference between the two, for even a tottering grandam keeps a portion of girlish heart, and the youngest maiden a thread of old woman's wisdom. Okay? As you wove patiently at my loom, now my loom, she says, 96, before the break in the page, now my loom will weave the more quickly for you. Why? What is her loom going to make that they can use in war?
The banner.
Okay, he's got a banner.
Close.
What time of year is it?
Winter.
It's becoming winter quickly. And they're going to be marching farther north. Even in this world, north means cold. Okay? So they're going to need more robes, more cloaks kind of stuff. Hlosser shows up. He says, bottom of 96, your news travels ahead of you, wanderer. In other words, what is happening throughout the free commands?
Being let out.
Word is being spread. Terran's back. And it's not just Terran's back, but Terran's back, and he's raising an army. And people are going, I'll join, I'll join, I'll join. I feared you would deem our command too small and pass it by. It was I who led our folk to find you. Terran, size doesn't matter. Where's your father? Where is Drudras? He says, he died. Lasser is the eldest son of Drudras. Where's your mother? He says, others will tend. My mother knows what a child must do and what a man must do. How old is Drudras? Not much younger than Terran. 14, 15 maybe. He's saying, I have to do a man's job. I can no longer be a child now. Okay? Bottom of 97. Plaster says, talking about Dorath, he has not troubled us since that night, nor will he likely trouble us again. I have heard he has left the Kamat lands and roves westward. He has put his sword in the service of the Death Lord, it is said. Perhaps it may be so. But if Dorath serves anyone, it is himself. In other words, if Iran's trusting Dorath to help him, he better watch his back. Because Dorath's always going to look out for himself. Terran, your service freely given counts more for us than any the Lord of Anuvan could hire. What was the wonderful bit of advice, or let me rephrase this. What was the wonderful little statement that Smoit said in Terran Wanderer that Terran picked up on and kind of spat back at him about Gorion and Gast? A king must have what of the people that he rules? Their allegiance. He says, you can throw them back in your prison, back in your dungeon. It's not going to get them to change, right? He's like, oh yeah, you're right. So Terran says, what you need to do is you need to find some way to gain their allegiance. Okay? So what has he just said here? Your service freely given. That's allegiance. Counts more than what? Than anybody who is bought. Need a real world example? What is one reason, just one, that, if you know anything about it, that the United States did not win, let's say, the Vietnam War? What is one reason we will not, quote unquote, win? I mean win like the First World War, Second World War, in Afghanistan. What is, I'll just use those two examples.
The soldiers don't care.
Okay. What are they fighting for?
Oil, whatever.
It's not in Afghanistan. Not at all.
Because they're being told to.
Because they're being told to, because they swore an oath on the Constitution to defend the country, etc. They received orders, all that. Okay, it's all good. I'm not denying any of that.
It's a job.
Are they fighting for their home? No, they're not. In Vietnam, the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong were fighting for their home. Why was the Civil War the bloodiest war the United States ever fought in? Because both sides were fighting for their homes. Their 750,000 dead. Hell of a lot more. More than all of our other wars combined. Okay? Why? When you're fighting for your land, your house, it's what? It's no holds barred. But if you're merely being paid to fight for somebody else's problem, a time comes when you go, this ain't worth it. It's not worth it. Okay? Hlasser, he's fighting for his home. He's fighting for his family. Prince Gwydion will be grateful to you. What does Karen assert there? You're not fighting for me. You're fighting for Prince Gwydion. By joining us, you're fighting for Gwydion. Hlasser, nope, to you. Our pride is not in fighting, but in farming. That is, we're not warriors. Our pride is in the work of our hands, not our blades. Never have we sought for. We come now to the banner of the white pig. Why? Because it's the banner of our friend. He's saying, you taught us how to defend ourselves. You need our help. We're here. What's the phrase? We got your back. Okay? So, Taryn kind of suggests allegiance to the king. He says, we're fighting for our friend. I'm going to throw another Old English reference. Old English word for friend is wene. It's not wine, wene. Okay? It's often used metaphorically for the king. You'll have this used, for example. Gold wene. Gold friend. Well, that's the friend who gives you gold. Everyday ordinary friends don't have gold. That's the king. The king gives gold in payment for services you do as a warrior. Okay? So he's united those two ideas right there. So, we find out Call helps Taryn. He helps him organize the troops. He marshals the troops because Taryn doesn't have any idea about how to do that. Okay? In bottom of 98, 99. Taryn says, you are the oaken staff I lean on. Without you, I'd crash. More than that, you are the whole sturdy tree. True warrior, Call, looks wryly, says, are you trying to honor me? That is, are you trying to puff me up? You want to really honor me? Say rather, I am a true grower of turnips and gatherer of apples. You're a true warrior. What's the purpose of a warrior? It's single-fold. To fight. To kill the enemy. To kill the enemy. Call's like, if you really want to honor me, if you really want to praise me, then tell me, man, you grow good turnips. What? Why?
Killing hunger.
He doesn't want you
Killing hunger. It's life-giving. It's life-sustaining. Apples are life-sustaining. No warrior whatever, save that I am needed thus for a while. In other words, yeah, I could put on the warrior's garment. That's not me. It's not who I am. My garden longs for me as much as I long for it. I left it unready for winter, and for that I will pay a sorry reckoning at spring planting. He's saying that soil is not going to be ready. Why? Because I didn't till in all the fall foliage, all the fall vegetation that grew in it. You till that into the soil so that over the winter months it rots, it makes humus, and it enriches the soil so that when you plant in the spring, you put the seeds in, boom, everything takes off. He says, man, I'm going to have a hard time. Taryn, we'll dig together. Taryn saying, I'm not a natural warrior either. My heart will be easier when I am once more an assistant pig keeper. Transformation. Just like Rune talked about, ooh, I wish I could transform myself. And he does. Taryn has what? This is emphasizing the lesson he learned at the end of Taryn Wanderer. He is what? Taryn, assistant pig keeper at heart. He's not a warrior at heart. Okay? So, he meets up with Anlaw. Not really anything Anlaw can make for him that'll help him. I mean, you make a sword out of pottery, what's it going to do to the first person you hit? Yes. Okay? But he does give him something. And Taryn says, I'll treasure it more than all the others. Okay? They have a battle. I'm skipping a bit. Gonna skip a lot. Raiders come. And who dies? Before call. Anlaw.
Too many people.
It's one of the hardest deaths for Taryn. Why? In his heart of hearts, Anlaw's who Taryn wanted to be. He wanted to be a potter. He sees Anlaw's body, page 103. Of the work of his hands, all had been shattered. Remember, in his cottage, he had what? Hundreds of bowls and plates and platters and jugs, curing, all destroyed. Taryn drops to his knees, calls hand on his shoulder. He drew himself away, stared up at the old warrior. Did I shout for victory? Small comfort to talk to folk who once befriended me. Have I served them well? The blood of Marin is on my hands. Why? Because he left them for a while, because there was a diversionary tactic, and then they got attacked. Lasser. The wanderer has not stirred from the potter's hut. It is harsh enough for each man to bear his own wound. But he who leads bears the wounds of all who follow him. Okay, all the wounds also includes what?
Guilt.
Yeah, death. I've heard soldiers talk about those that they quote unquote led into battle and didn't make it. And it's like a weight on them all the time. If you go back, because you guys are too young, most of you are too young to remember this. If you go back and watch George Bush's speech to Congress on September 20th. No, take that back. George Bush's State of the Union address in 2002. I think that's when he did it. It's either that or it is the address to Congress on September 20th of 2001. After 9/11, obviously. He's speaking, and he pulls out from his pocket a shield. And it's a policeman's shield. It's one of the cops who died in 9/11. And Bush said, that, in fact, I'm pretty sure it was September 20th. Bush said while he was there, this cop's sister gave him the shield. And Bush said, I carry it with me everywhere I go. Now, he might have been lying through his teeth. I don't know. I'm going to take it for the moment that he wasn't. He said, I carry it with me everywhere I go. Why? It reminds me. Reminds him of what? There's going to be a lot of these. Every president who's had to order men into battle says the greatest thing, greatest meaning the thing that bothers them the most, that wears on their souls the most of the job of president is when you have to make that call to send troops into harm's way. Even if it's seemingly a minor thing. Because what are you doing? Somebody's father, somebody's husband, somebody's wife, somebody's brother, daughter, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle, nephew, niece might not come home that night. And ultimately, whose fault or responsibility is that? Harry Truman said, the buck stops here. It's that president's, okay? That's what Taryn is wrestling with. Call. Leave him where he chooses to be. In the morning, he'll be well, though likely never heal. That is, he'll be able to get up and go on. He's not going to forget. Okay? So, they go on. The Raiders learn a bitter lesson, we're told, bottom of 103. And let's see here. We hear, page 104, King Pryderi has raised armies. Fluter says, page 105, they make their way to Caerdathil. So, Taryn has raised this pretty large army. They've had a couple of skirmishes. They've lost some people. And now they're going to surrender this army, so to speak, to whom? To Gwydion. He's raised this army for Gwydion to command and such. And we get the description of Caerdathil, page 105. Cheered by the bard's music, the companions journeyed on together. Soon the high fortress of Caerdathil rose golden in the winter sunlight. Its mighty bastions sprang up like eagles impatient for the sky. Beyond the walls, circling the fortress, stood the camps and flag-decked pavilions of lords coming allegiance to the royal house of Dawn, etc., etc. And Taryn thinks, safe, halted in his own thoughts, and the memories returned. That is, Taryn thinks, now we're safe. And then he thinks of Rune, who slept silent before the gates of Caer-Cadairn. And then he thinks of Anlá, and his fingers clenched that bit of pottery. The bit of pottery that was where? In Anlá's hand when he died. So he had to pry the fingers open and pull it out. We get the coming of Pryderi. Okay? So Math speaks. Pryderi comes in with his host. Math says to Taryn, page 109, go to your task. The days come when an assistant pig keeper must help bear the burden of a king. Okay. We have Taliesin show up. Hope I'm going to finish. Taliesin shows up. He talks to Fluter first. We get a description of him. Page 111. He and Fluter talk back and forth. And he says to Fluter about his gift to him, about the harp. I've often thought of that gift. Indeed, it has been a little on my conscience. Okay. I knew the nature of the harp when I gave it to you. And knowing your own nature, suspected that you would always have some small trouble with the strings. He's saying, I knew the kind of person you were, so I gave you that harp in particular. Kind of acts as a balance. Because Fluter has troubles with what? It's not up here anymore. Self-command. Catching himself, not. Okay? Trouble? No, not a bit. Never bing, bing. You know, just right there. Fact of the matter is, as I stop and think on it, the old pots forced me to tell the truth, well, a little more than I would. It does occur to me telling the truth has harmed no one, least of all myself. Well, then you learned no small lesson. Nonetheless, my gift was in jest. It was a joke. It was a practical joke. But not entirely in jest. Say perhaps the laughter of one heart to another. But you bore it willingly. Come here. I've got a storeroom of hearts. Take your pick. This is like, think of a modern, musician, and you get to choose your guitar, and you want to get a, I don't know, 1940 something, Gibson Stratocaster or something, and a multi-$1,000 guitar, and he says, "No, I'll take the one I got at Walmart. I'll keep this one. Why? This old pot, page 112, is quite good enough for me. There are times, I swear, when it seems to play of itself. None has a better tone when the strings are fixed, that is. It sits well against my shoulder, not to belittle these, but we're used to each other. I'd rather keep what I have." Is that all? Or is Fluter also saying, and I need this little crutch to keep me honest? Taliesin, okay, that's cool, that's fine. But you others, there's Terran, there's Ilanwi and such. He says, stored in this hall of lore as much as pertains ancient learning. Okay? Talks about memory, talks about poetry and such. Talks about wisdom. Gurgi, a wisdom of noble bards that makes humble Gurgi's poor tender head spin with whirlings and twirlings. Taliesin, you don't believe you have any wisdom? Gurgi, that's not true. Of wisdom there are as many patterns as a loom can weave. Yours is the wisdom of a good and kindly heart. After all, and ever in the stories, from when we first meet Gurgi until we see him at the end, do we ever see Gurgi do anything mean, spiteful, negative, selfish? Never.
He talks about wanting to.
How so?
He wants to do the smashings and mashings. He said it in one of the other books.
But not for himself. He doesn't want to do it for himself. He wants to do that to help the others, to help fight. That's defensive of the others. He never emphasized, except for when he's hungry. But that's preservation, man. I mean, that's living. I gotta eat. Okay? Scarce it is, what? A good and kindly heart. And it is worth all the greater. Such as that of Call, son of Calfruer. Oh, so Call is good and kindly. Added thereto the wisdom of the earth, the gift of waking barren ground, causing the soil to flourish in a rich harvest. So we find out some of Call's wisdom, so to speak. Call, that's the garden, that's not me. I don't do that. Call, showing what there? His own humility, okay? Ilanwi says what she was to gain, what kind of wisdom she was to gain on the Isle of Mona. She thinks learning how to be a lady was wisdom. Taliesin puts her in her place. Learning is not the same as wisdom. You can't be taught wisdom. In your veins, princess, flows the blood of the enchantresses of Lear. Your wisdom may be the most secret of all, for you know without knowing. Go back to Caer Cadaern. Something's wrong here. She can't immediately put her finger on it. It takes her a little bit. Even as the heart itself knows how to beat. Well, think about that. How does the heart know how to beat? It just does. It's the thing I was talking about the other couple of weeks ago. The acorn knows to become an oak tree, not an apple tree. Okay? Terran. Alas for my own wisdom. I was with your son when he met his death. Now, I think that's Terran, and I could be wrong, but I think that's Terran kind of saying, your son shouldn't have died. I should have been able to save him. I should have been able to keep him alive. He gave me a brooch of great power, and while I wore it, there was much I understood, much that was hidden. Grew clear to me. The brooch is no longer mine, if indeed it ever was. What I knew then, I remember only as a dream. Notice, he's saying that's his wisdom, but it's all what? Past tense. Taliesin. A shade of sorrow passed over his face. There are those who must first learn loss, despair, and grief. First implies Something's going to come later. Of all paths to wisdom, this is the cruelest and longest. What is? Loss, despair, grief. What has Taran already experienced? He's experienced all three of those already twice. Ruin and law. You could maybe even say Druid was, whatever the guy's name is. Lasser's father. Okay? Of all paths to wisdom, this is the cruelest and longest. Are you one who must follow such a way? Don't know. If you are, take heart nonetheless. That is, suck it up, buttercup. You don't get to choose. Those who reach the end do more than gain wisdom. As rough wool becomes cloth and crude clay a vessel, notice the analogies he is using. 2 of the 3 crafts, skills that Taran tried his hand at, so do they change and fashion wisdom for others, and what they give back is greater than what they won. Notice, what's doing the changing and fashioning wisdom? Loss, despair, grief. Taliesin is saying, these can produce what in people? Well, the ability to overcome, the ability to endure, the ability to sustain, and the ability to see meaning in those 3 things. All right? So, we go into the hall, and Pryderi shows up. What do we find out about him? Self-righteous SOB. Traitor. Yeah, he's a traitor. Okay? He demands they lay down their arms, they swear allegiance, etc., and they kick him out. Okay? So he's going to attack the next morning. Let's see here. Pick up with 122. So Gwydion speaks to his war leaders, sets forth the tasks. In the top of 122, we're told, Taran felt uneasy. As a boy, he had dreamed of taking a man's place among men, and as a boy had deemed himself well fit to do so. Now, amid the grizzled, battle-wise warriors, his strength seemed feeble. His knowledge clouded. Call, sensing Taran's thoughts, winked encouragement at him. The stout old farmer, Taran knew, had paid close heed to Gwydion's words. Yet Taran guessed that a corner of Call's heart was distant, busily and happily occupied with his turnip patch. Why do we get that little passage? He's fought in skirmishes, right? He's fought in battles. This is what? This is Saddam Hussein's the mother of all battles. This is going to be the granddaddy. There's going to be not Arun and Anlaw dead, not 1 or 2. There will be hundreds. Okay? So, we get the battle, page 128, before the chapter of the Red Fallows, the last page of that chapter, the fortress. Field of battle was silent now. Awed hush had fallen even upon the men of Pryderi. The High King did not turn away as the cauldron-born drew closer, his eyes fixed theirs as he raised his sword defiantly. How old's Math? He's old. When he raises his sword defiantly, it's probably, I'll fight you. Unflinching, he stood in pride and ancient majesty. Grasping the flashing sword in his frail hands, the High King swung it downward in a sweeping blow. The warrior's blade turned it aside and stuck like a pig. He staggers, drops to one knee, and the cauldron-born, whoosh, just like in the Battle of Malden with Beowulf. I mean, he just goes down like a bag of rocks. Bottom of the page. Flames rose above the great hall, above the hall of lore. From the middle tower was unfurled the crimson hawk of Pryderi. Okay, above the hall of lore, that is all the stored teaching of Prydain that Iran didn't get, what has now happened to? This is like the Library of Congress in the United States. Take that back. It's not a good library. I mean, it's a good library. It's like the British Library in England or the Bodleian Library in Oxford, which house things that are the only copies they have. Only copies in the world. Boof. Gone. Everything in the Hall of Lore.
I think they'd like make some copies and then put them somewhere else.
Some of the things can't be. I mean, but a lot of the stuff's been digitized, that kind of thing. Beside it, blotting out the dying sun, spread the black banner of Iran, Guitarist had fallen. So we get the red phalanx. Okay? And who do we see dead? That first page. Lonio. His luck ran out. I mean, there's no other way you can put it. He didn't find any luck that day. Okay? Page 130, there's a new High King. Gwydion. Okay? Taliesin honors Gwydion. He kind of does the blessing. He's the chief druid. Okay? And Gwydion says, all right, we've got one way to make this work. We have one way to win. What is it?
Split up.
Look at the map. Where's Caerdathil? Caerdathil is right here. They're going to have to do what? Split their force. One is going to kind of go this way, come to the ships, come at Anuvin from the back. The other one's going to go this way and get Anuvin in what? What's this called? Military strategy. It's a pincher movement. You get in between the pinchers and then hammer and anvil, wham! Okay? So, who's going to go to the ships? Who came from the ships? The sons of Dawn. Gwydion and his family. Ancestors. Maybe, it's not clear. Maybe not Gwydion himself personally, because we were told that was a long time ago. Okay? So, Gwydion, page 131, says, never in memory has Iran sent his deathless warriors abroad in such strength. He's taken the greatest risk. Why? Because he emptied Anuvin. So if we can take Anuvin, we can destroy him. Okay? So, Gwydion says, 132, Sea must aid our venture. So he says, some have got to go by ship, others have to go over land. I will lead the seaward march. As for the other journey, Terran, will you accept it? My wish is your command. I do not command. Nope, not going to order this. Why? Your death's not going to be on my head, boy. I order no man to such a task against his will, and all who follow you must do so willingly. And you can't order them either. Terran, I will do this. Okay? You sure now? Bottom of the page. No turning back. There's no starting and going, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to quit. Okay? No further hope. Should either of us fail, what? We're screwed. Yeah. If I don't do what I'm supposed to do, you're going to die. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, I'm going to die. So we both better succeed. Okay? So, Hlasser, Hevid, all the other common folk, of course will follow you. Okay? They talk a little bit about Blue and bottom of 133, Fluter and Terran. He's like, he's trying to get something out of this. He's trying to feather his nest. Okay? So, keep talking a little bit. So, page 134, 35, they follow the Cauldron-born. Well, sometimes it's described as following, sometimes it's described like it's a race. They're trying to beat the Cauldron-born to get back to Anuvin before the Cauldron-born can. Okay? And we're told, bottom of 134, Terran's heart sinks when he sees the side of the column moving like a long serpent over the flatlands. Because he's thinking, how do we stop that? They're cauldron born. That means they can't what? They can't be killed. Okay? Yes.
I mean, like, if you cut off their head, like, or their arms, you know, like.
They keep going. They're like
They're
they're like Monty Python's Black Knight. You take the arms and legs off, and they're going to hop on their stubby torso stuff.
My
Okay?
question is, how are they even still alive? Because didn't they destroy the cauldron?
That's
Yeah,
they
they
can't
can't
make
destroy
anymore.
it.
What is it? I thought you said
Yeah.
they said source of life.
He said it just stopped them from making new ones.
Yeah, he just can't make new ones, and you don't have to dip them back in to rejuvenate or anything like that. It's once they come out of the cauldron, unless I think probably Michael's suggestion is correct. Unless you totally dismember them, I mean, Ginsu knife them to little pieces, kind of a thing. Okay, so Call says when Terrence says, "Can we hold them off? A pebble can turn aside an avalanche." What's he mean?
Butterfly. I don't know.
Okay. Kind of. You got this big column. What do we need to do? We need to divert it. Well, you start with a small rock on a big old hillside with a bunch of loose rock. It's the snowball effect, right? It'll start bigger rock. So he says we've got to find a way to do that. Fluter, oh, that's true. What happens to the twig or pebble afterwards, however, I don't want to think about. Because that also implies what? We're the pebble. That's the avalanche. We can stop it, but what happens to the pebble in the avalanche? It gets buried. If you're on the slope somewhere in Vail or California or whatever, and you start an avalanche, what's usually going to happen to you? You don't ride the avalanche on the top. You die. Okay? So they keep going and they get to the Red Fallows, pages 136 and 7. Terran's like, what is this place? The ground is red, like Mars's soil. It's the Red Fallows, Call says. I fear it as much the way my garden looks. Terran, I thought it was no more than a traveler's tale. That is, a fairy tale. Call, no. Men have long shunned it, yet it once was the fairest realm in Prydain. A prize it was to be won and held. Many lords fought for its possession, but in the fighting over year after year, the hooves of steeds trampled the ground, the blood of warriors stained it. Echoes, Adeon, field steeped in blood. In time the land died, as did those who strove to claim it from their fellows. I know this land, my boy, and it does not please me to see it again. Call is saying, I was one of those who stained it. He was one of those who killed the land. Maybe that's why he takes such care to make sure the land brings forth life. And why he wants to be honored as a grower of turnips. In my younger days, I too marched with the battle host and left not a little of my own blood here. Terran's thinking, will this land ever be restored? Would the soil not yield again if it were labored well? Call. Who knows? So what's Terran raising there? What did he say to Rune, dead? I'll go back and I'll build your seawall. He's implying here, if I should live, I'm going to see what I can do. Okay? Call. Let's see here. Bottom of 137. We must drive the cauldron born into the hills. I have to skip too much. Call says, know this too. If such is your choice, at the very bottom of 137, it must be done at this place and at all costs. Okay? Why drive them into the hills? Slow them down. They're just trying to slow them down. Okay? So, we're going to skip a bunch. Some of the cauldron-born break free. They try to break through the breach. Bottom of 140 calls the first one to get there. And he seizes the warrior in his burly arms and throws him back over the breach. Other cauldron-born come. Terran comes at his side. They're bleeding now. They're tired. Bottom of 141. Call says, after them, my boy, give them no rest. The twigs have turned the flood, but it must be turned again, and many times if you would block the way to Newman. One stout oak tree has turned it, Terran replied. Once again, I have leaned on it. He took Call's work-hardened hands and gently tried to lift him. That is, he's not trying to lift his hands. He takes Call's hands, because Cole's on the ground, and he tries to gently pull him up. He wants to get Call to get to his feet. Call's broad face grinned, and he shook his head. He doesn't need to say anything else. Shaking his head means, you're going to have to bury me here. I am a farmer, but warrior enough to know my own death wound. Go along, my boy. Carry with you no more burdens than you must. That is, don't think about me. My death is not on your shoulders. What? Would you have me break the promise I made? That we will dig and weed together? It is a foolish promise. You're getting ready to go off to battle. You don't make all kinds of promises that you what? Can't keep. Old English poetry again. Quite a few poems that deal with kind of the warrior ethic. And warriors are told, don't make a boast unless you know you can keep it. You know you can fulfill that boast or promise. Okay? Ilanwi looks at Terran. Call. I had hoped one day to sleep in my own garden. I had hoped I'd be buried with the turnips. Kind of weird, but okay. For those who eat the turnips. The drone of bees would have pleased me more than the horn of Gwyn the hunter. But, Terran, no, you're not going to die. Why? I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die.
Wait, which one's Gwyn the hunter?
He's just a kind of a mythological figure. Okay? Call, see to our plantings, my boy. Notice our plantings. The garden's yours now. Make sure it grows. We shall He's not listening. It's almost like Call needs to go smack, last bit of strength. The weeds will no more stand against you than did Iran's warriors, but Call's dead. So Rune, Anlaw, Lanio, Call, getting kind of close to home, isn't it? Yes.
Can I ask you a question? He tells him to do the fields for him, right? At the end, I don't really want to do it.
No, go ahead.
At the end, Darwin said the only people that knew that he may have been the next willing king was Cole, him, and Woody, right? So if he's telling him to tend to his job, is it him wanting him to be the high king, possibly? Or wanting that to come true?
That's how I took it. I took it meaning the fields as in everything.
Tend the fields of Prydain.
Yeah.
Could be.
Like tend to the people, tend to the...
Could be. I mean, at the end, Dalbin does say that, but it's kind of couched, right? I mean, it's hedged. Because they don't know for, Dalbin and Gwydion don't know for sure until what?
The very, very, very end.
Until Terran is given, let's just jump to the end, till Terran is given the choice. You can come to the summer country. Which is really what? It's heaven. It is a Celtic mythological idea, the other world. Even the Celtic other world has an other world that is a world in the Orthodox Christian liturgy for the dead. We pray for someone who dies that they will go to a place of brightness, of greenness, of verdure, where there is no sighing, no tears, no death. That's the summer country. That's that idea, okay? Terran's given that opportunity, along with who else? Well, who has to go? Dalbin has to go. Gwydion and all the sons of Dawn have to go.
Everyone with magic.
Which means Ilanwi has to go. Okay. Akron has to go, and they give Taran the option. And he's like, go and live forever at the beach, summer country, at the beach with Eilonwy. No brainer. And then he does what? He thinks of Rune and his seawall and the people of Mona. He thinks of the people of Marin and Law and his place. He thinks of Call and Call's stupid garden. And he thinks of the Red Fallows and says, if I leave, who will fix the seawall? Nobody will. If I leave, who will plant Call's garden? Nobody will. If I leave, who will help rebuild the free Kamats that were destroyed? Nobody will. If I leave, who will try to make the Red Fallows fertile ground again? Nobody will. I can't leave. I have promises to keep. And as Robert Frost then puts in his poem, Stopping by Woods on a snowy evening, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Okay? So when I don't necessarily think Call's thinking when he says this, like he's trying to look in his eyes and go, you will be king, you will be. I think he literally means plant my garden.
Don't forget about I swear.
Don't. Why? Because he's saying that's the memorial to me. That's the memorial. Keep my garden alive. And every time you go there and you pull a turnip, you go, thank you, Call. Thank you for teaching me how to grow turnip. Thank you for teaching me how to prune an apple tree so that it produces more apples, kind of a thing. Okay? So they gather stones, they bury him. Taran says, sleep well, grower of turnips and gatherer of apples. You are far from where you long to be, so too am I. Why? I never wanted to be here. Where? Burying you. That's what he means when he says, this is not where I want to be. I want to be anywhere but here. Okay? But he also wants to be back in Caer Dallben. See, even when Taran says, I can't go, I have to stay here, that's when Dallben goes, and behind door number 3, you are now High King. You responded properly. And Taran's like, what? I can't tend the garden, if I'm High King, etc. Okay? So, darkness. Let's see here. We're going to skip a bunch. So, Eilonwy and Gurgi get separated from Taran and the others. And Taran and the others make their way along. Doli shows up. And Doli talks about the caverns. Okay? So they're going to try to go through the caverns because, he's a dwarf-like creature, fair little people. And they're going to go through the caverns to do what?
To get a faster way.
It's a shortcut. And shortcuts always inevitably become long cuts. Okay? Why does this one become a long cut? Glue. Such a great name for him. Glue. Ew. Why? What does glue do? He's greedy. He sees the gemstones. What did Call say about a pebble? Can start an avalanche. He pulls one, and they have a cave-in. Okay? So,
I kind of just wanted Fluter to just straight up kill him, like right there. Just be like.
It wouldn't be Fluter though.
Taran,
Taran, I could understand. Doli
would do it.
Doli would off him, and Okay. So, in chapter titled Daylight, we see Eilonwy captured by Dorith and his men. And Eilonwy doesn't look like Eilonwy, right? Golden-haired, beautiful princess. No, she's got a disguise on, so she looks like a boy. And Dorith, page 162, smacks her. Him, he thinks. She falls. This golden sphere falls from her jacket. Okay. Dorith kicks it away from her. One of the ruffians asks, "What is this?" Another one says, "Gold. Chop it up." And he looks at it. He says, "Where did you get this?" Page 163. Eilonwy doesn't speak. Well, you'll speak soon enough. Gurgi, tries to help her. Bottom of 163. Dorith goes up close to Eilonwy and says about Gurgi, "You're ugly. I've seen your face before. I remember you, but this isn't the swineherd I saw this ugly thing with before." And he goes up to Eilonwy and he grips her face. Why? So he can hold it and come real close to it. Not a boy, a witch. Witch indeed, I'm Eilonwy, daughter of Engel, daughter of Rhaegar, princess of Lear. I don't like being tied up. I don't like being smacked. I don't like being pawed. I'll thank you to stop doing all of that immediately. Okay? And she kicks at him. He laughs. He says, "I remember that swineherd spoke of you." Huh. She says, "Let Gurgi and I go right now. And I'll take that bottle thing back." 164. You'll go free. After a time, my pretty princess, after a time, when you shall be fitting company for pig keepers. Perhaps you may join the swineherd again. Perhaps he will even recognize your charms, whatever may be left of them. Now, for being quote unquote children's or young adult literature, this is getting pretty dark. Because he's obviously talking about rape. And not just one rape. He's talking about himself and the ruffians. How do I know? "Have you considered what will be left of you," she says, "when Taryn finds you?" Until now, she kept her self-control. She loses it there. Why? Because she understands exactly what he's talking about. She could sense the Allah's thoughts behind his cold eyes, and for the first time, she was deeply afraid. I mean, after a time, that is, when we're done with you, then we'll let you go. "Do not harm wise and kindly Princess Gurgi, Dorith turns on him, snatches out his sword. Eilonwy cries out. And before the outlaw could bring out his sword, what happens? Just in the nick of time. So Eilonwy's quote-unquote virtue is preserved. Okay? She's rescued. She figures out how to talk to the wolves. After all, what did Taliesin tell her? You know without knowing how you know. Okay? And she says, top of 167, I know it, but I can't imagine how I do. And that's what Taliesin said. Okay? So, they get up the next day to the top of the ridge. They see Karen and his company go into the cavern. She sees them, and then she sees them come back out. 170 at the bottom. From her vantage point, the girl could span the valley, that is, see the whole valley, and suddenly coldly clear to her that the Comet warriors and the huntsmen, as yet unseen by one another, were moving closer to their gun. They'll be trapped. So she starts to cry out, Taryn, Taryn. Darkness had fallen over the valley, blinding the girl to the inevitable clash of the warrior bands. She keeps calling Taryn's name, snatches the bauble from her cloak. She lifts the spear high. Well, what did we see the spear do in Glue's cavern? Shot out light. When?
When They were thinking of a deed not for themselves, but for
Exactly. When they were thinking of somebody or something else. For Terran, when he's thinking of Ilanri. For Fluter, when he's thinking, how are we going to get out of here? You know, brighter and brighter it glowed. Notice, she's not thinking of herself. She's thinking of Terran. The wolves turned away fearfully. Groovy threw his arms. The beam spread, rose toward the clouds. What's the prophecy? When night turns to day. Quenched will be Dernwin's flame, vanished its power. Night turned to noon. Okay, so there's night turned to noon. We don't have quenched, Dernwin, but one of the 5. Okay? Chapter 15, we get the River of Ice, which turns to fire because they put all the wood and stuff on it. They light it. Okay? So, 178-79, the ice is melting. They heard the hiss of quenched flames. The waterfall breaks. Okay? So we have rivers burn with frozen fire. 2 done. Okay? And Ilanwi cries out, page 180, Hinwin's prophecy. Part of it's come true. Okay? Terran looks at her and says, you did part of it. 181. They're now thinking about it. And I can't read my handwriting. I wrote something there. I don't know what it means. 181, Terran still says, I still don't understand the meaning of the prophecy. Are these signs of hope, or are we deceiving ourselves? He kind of says, just forget about the prophecy. Okay? The enchanter, who shows up? Well, Praderi shows up where? At Kirdalvin. It's like, meanwhile, back at the farm. Okay. Sorry, not Praderi. Yeah, it is Praderi. I was going to say Mag. It is Praderi. Okay. Praderi is there. He wants to kill Dalbin. Dalbin's kind of like,
You can try.
yeah, go ahead and try. And, he gets the zap. Okay. Chapter 17, the snowstorm. I'm going to skip a bunch. Caw comes. Let's see. And they find Akron. She's not dead. She's mostly dead. Miracle Max isn't around. 200-201. Okay, it's winter. It's snowing. They're freezing. And they don't have a fire. They're trying to think of what they can do. They're also worried about Akron. Fluter, middle of 200. Will any of us, that is, live through the night without a fire? Without a fire, we might just as well say farewell to each other right now. Arlanwi, I'm fine. I'm comfortable. Why is she comfortable? Is it because she's in Terran's arms?
The Terran gave her his hope.
Okay.
No, she's dying.
She's dying. Why? Cold. The cold is overcoming her. There's another literary example of this. Robert Frost, Jack London's To Build a Fire. Have I talked about that in this class? Yeah.
No.
No,
like where the dog stays away.
Yeah, the dog stays away, the guy's trying to build a fire, and he feels death slowly creeping up, and it's kind of peaceful. Okay? Well, Ilanwi's starting to die because of the cold. Terran, don't sleep, smacks her to keep her awake. 201. Fluter's been listening to all this. He pulls his harp off. Dolly's like, music? Now's not a time unless it's, da, 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 da. It shall give us the tune we need. Fluter, what are you going to do? Terran asks. Keep in mind, who do you get the harp from? Taliesin, the greatest bard. Practical joke, but, He did not answer. For a long moment, he held the harp lovingly in his hands and gently touched the strings, and then smack! Breaks it over his knees. Terran cries, burn it. It's well seasoned. He's in his 40s. He's had this thing for decades. Yeah, it's well seasoned. This thing ought to burn like pine cones. Burn it. What have you done? Gallant, foolish flam, you've destroyed your harp for the sake of a moment's warmth. We need a greater fire than this. In other words, because it's so well seasoned, what's it going to do? It'll be like a flash fire almost. He thinks. So they light it, and we're told Iluni sits up. Iluni.
She was.
She is kind of loony, mixing up this class with my Harry Potter class, you know. Ilonwi looks up as though waking from a dream. She understood what fuel the bard had offered, tears. Fluter, don't give it a second thought. The truth of the matter is I'm delighted to be rid of it. Could never really play the thing. It was more a burden than anything else. I feel light as a feather without it. Yeah, so he says. That's all macho lying. I was never meant to be a bard in the first place. Whew. Stinks. Bad smoke. The flames had now spread to all the fragments, and as the harp strings blazed, a melody sprang suddenly from the heart of the fire. Well, how does that happen?
It's magic.
Is it magic?
It's enchanted.
Is it enchantment? Could be. Have you never had a fire and heard wood whistle
No.
as it burned? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the gas. Gas is escaping. And when they catch, they'll...
I mean, if that wood was made from a pine stump, no magic involved. Like
Yeah, probably not.
It's great.
Pine wouldn't make a good soundboard for a harp. You'd need something like beech or birch or maple even. Okay?
I was talking
Do a
about
little
like,
woodworking.
what do you call it? Fat leather is like when
Yeah.
a pine stump rots and
Oh,
all
yeah.
this sap. So
Yep. So, louder and more beautiful it grew, the strains of music filled, the echoing endlessly among the crags. Dying, the harp seemed to be pouring forth all the songs ever played upon it, and the sound shimmered like the fire. And what? The harp sings as it burns all night. Kind of like bush on Sinai. You know, it's consumed but not, it burns but not consumed. Okay? Only at dawn did the flame sink into glowing embers. And what does Fluter find? One single string that had coiled like pure gold. Okay? Mount Dragon. So, Akron's still alive. As they get closer to Anuvin's borders, Mount Dragon is on the border of it. Okay? What happens to Dolly? Closer and closer he gets to Anubin, more and more he starts to die. Okay? So Dolly can't go across. So Akron tells them she knows how to get in. She knows how to get over the mountain. How? She lived there first. She knows all the hidden passageways. Okay? Dolly says, I could do it. She says, you'd be a fool, page 206. You'll die on your way. So they've got to take her word for it. What's Terrance's problem?
He doesn't trust her.
Yeah, he still remembers back in the castle of Lear standing there in her nice little palace. And she's going to kill him. Do you ask us to stake our lives on your words? Bottom of 206. In your heart you fear me, pig keeper, but which do you fear the more, the path I offer you or the certain death of Lord Gwydion? If you don't take this path, Gwydion dies. If Gwydion dies, we all die. Iran wins. Your choice. So, he takes it. Okay? We're told 209, they're almost at the highest ridge, middle of the page. There they call, comes back and says, Gwydion, Anubin. Okay? And end of that chapter, very end, Terran leaps from the ridge to join his companions, and the rock crumbles. He falls, Ilonwi screams, his foot slips, and he's like hanging like this. And here comes one of those damn Gwythanes. And he's thinking, I'm toast. This is going to eat me. And as it comes closer to him, he notices, next chapter, its head deeply scarred by an old wound thrust against him. This is the one he saved. Okay? So it helps him. We're going to skip a bunch. He finds the rock. Inside the rock, he finds Dernwin. Okay? And the Cauldron-born come up. And he's, slashing and slicing and dicing. Page 215. Taran runs down to the corridor, to the courtyard of Iran. And there's Gwydion. And Gwydion says, sheath the blade, or it will cost your life. Taran, okay, sorry. Noble birth, peasant.
That immediately gave him away.
Not
I
necessarily.
thought that would have immediately. Well, it gave him away to me, but like the reader, but like I thought that would have just immediately given him away. Just how he talked so meanly.
Well, that's true.
And
That's
he
true.
knows the thing that's written on it.
Yeah.
If noble worth, if Taran was able to unsheath it, then therefore he's of noble worth.
Notice what didn't happen this time.
It didn't hurt him.
Yeah, he's not knocked 20 feet away into a tree. Okay. Have you drawn this blade, Pig Keeper? Gwydion demanded. Gwydion, if it were the real Gwydion, what would Gwydion at least have added? Assistant, Pig Keeper. He's not just a pig keeper. Okay? My hands alone dare touch. Give me this. Now we should know. It's not Gwydion. Gwydion doesn't talk like that. Okay? Quickly. Taran flung himself back when Gwydion reaches out and says, Lord Gwydion, this is not the counsel of a friend, it is betrayal. And only then he realizes, Iran. Okay? Too late. Okay? So, he sees Meg. We're going to skip Meg. Page 219. They see the treasure house of Iran. Gurgi. Glimmerings and shimmerings. Very secret place. Very fearsome. Not wise for bold Gurgi to stay. But Glue is like the mother lode. Starts taking stuff. And Gurgi stops him. 221. Gwydion, when Taran offers the sword, the real one, to him, you have earned the right to draw it, assistant pig keeper, and thus the right to wear it. Fluter says, man, that was cool. Taran, I hate them, that is the Cauldron-born, no longer. He only hated them when he had to kill them. When he had to kill them to defend himself. It was not their wish to bend in slavery to another's will. Now they are at peace. Notice what he says there. It's very similar to what Gwydion said about King Morgant, right? When Morgant was killed, he says, we will raise a mount for him and we will sing a funeral dirge for him. And Taran's like, what? He was the bad guy. Gwydion says, not all his life he wasn't. The Cauldron-born were not Cauldron-born of their own free will, were they?
They were warriors or even regular men at one point.
Who were thrown in, or even corpses that were thrown into a cauldron. Okay? So, then when his prophecy comes alive, comes true, etc., etc. There's page 222. Ockran says, do you seek Iran? He is here. Taran sprang aside. Dermot flashed from the scabbard. Ockran clutched the serpent in both hands, as though to strangle or tear it asunder. The head of the snake darted toward her, and okay. Taran goes to Gwydion's side, who's holding the limp body of the queen. So Ockran falls, and Gwydion goes to her and holds her. Blood had drained from her lips. Her eye-glazed eyes sought Gwydion's face. What does this scene and other scenes between Gwydion and Ockran tell us? There could have been something there. I mean, something could have occurred between them. Okay? There is a respect, and I think there is a bit of affection also. Or at least Gwydion is not treating her like a former enemy here. Have I not kept my oath, Gwydion? Is the Lord of Anuvan slain? It is good, my death comes easily upon me. She parts as she would speak again, but she dies. Okay? Fluter, look at the sword, because now what happens to the sword? Same thing that happens to the sword in Beowulf. It melts. Faster than the glow faded, no longer white, but filled with swirling colors. Terran's hand held no more than a scarred and battered weapon whose blade glinted dully. It doesn't literally melt, it loses its shine and luster. Okay? So, Eilonwy now reads on it, in the light of the bauble, bottom of 223. Draw Dernwin only thou of noble worth, to rule with justice, to strike down evil. That comes almost, the rule with justice, strike down evil, comes almost straight out of a couple of prophetic books of the Old Testament. Isaiah, chapter 60, I'm pretty sure it is. And I'm pretty sure Zechariah and Micah. Getting ready to teach those in a couple days. Who wields it in good cause shall slay even the Lord of death. Okay. Chapter 20, the gift. We're told, page 227. They've gone back to Dallben. They've gone back to Caer Dallben. And Gwydion says, like the huntsman, the Gwythaints have been destroyed. It is true, one task remains. Sons of Dawn, their kinswomen must board the golden ships that sail for the summer country, the land from which we came. Terran, well, how? I mean, you guys can't leave. Who's going to rule? Our victory is itself the reason for our voyage. This is a destiny long ago laid upon us. When the Lord of Anuvan shall be overcome, then must the sons of Dawn depart forever from Prydain. That is, if the Lord of Anuvan's still here, we get to stay. If he's defeated, we go home. And the people who are here, they deal with their own problems. Eilonwy's like, no! We're getting married. We cannot turn from this ancient destiny. In other words, I don't have a choice, honey. This has got to happen. And Fluter, too. Why? Ken. Fluter, but I can stay. I don't mind staying. He goes, you don't have a choice. Taliesin, it's not for you to choose. The summer country is a fair land, fairer even than Prydain, one where all heart's desires are granted. And Terran's going, all heart's desires. I myself shall teach you the playing of it. That is, you're going to get a new harp. So when he says, I'm going to teach you how to play, what's he really mean? Who's the greatest guitarist who's ever lived? I don't, some of you might think, some people say Jimi Hendrix. Some people say Prince. Okay? Some people say Eric Clapton. I once heard Eric Clapton go, man, have you heard Prince play? Like nothing you've ever seen before. Okay? Taliesin is saying, I'm all the best guitarists, all in one. I'm going to teach you how to play. And he's going, okay, you have always had the heart of a true bard, fluted Flam. Until now, it was unready. Okay? Know this too. All men born must die, save those who dwell. So, all your heart's desires are answered, and you don't die. Sounds like heaven. Okay? A land without strife or suffering, or even death itself is unknown. Dallben. Oh yeah, there's another destiny. So must there come into my powers, and all enchantments. Well, that just snags Eilonwy. She's the daughter of an enchantress. Dallben. So I'm going, and Jolien has got to return to the fair folk and call. And what's going to happen to them? Why don't we see fairies anymore? Because the sons of Dawn went to the summer country, and the fairies went back underground, and that's where they live. Okay? Galvin, even you have to come. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Okay? Gergie, you too. Hinwin, you too. Karen, you too. They can all go, be one big happy family. Gergie, yes, yes. Land of no signs, no dyings, and all eatings, probably. Okay? Terrence's heart leapt. He says, we can be wed if you want to. He's not forcing her. She goes, of course. And he's like, really? Pinch me, somebody. Make me sure that I'm not asleep. Dalvin, even glue can come. In the summer country, he may grow, if he so desires, to the stature of a man. Why? What did glue do?
He wanted to become a giant because he was so short.
Okay, sorry, not that. Why can glue come? What did he do that merits his going?
Tell the truth.
He saved some of those secrets, right? Okay. So, Karen goes to sleep. And what happens? He has a dream. Or was it? Page 232. What? Sleepless, my chicken? There's 3 tall and slender figures. He says, I know who you are. You're not the same. Yeah, we're kind of the same. So, Ordu unfolds a length of brightly woven tapestry. Holds it out to him. We came to bring you this. Take it. Pay no heed to. He says, I've seen this on your loom. Why do you offer it to me? Well, it's yours. It does come from our loom, if you insist on strictest detail, but it was really you who wove it. He's puzzled. He looks more closely at it. He sees crowded with images of men and women, warriors, battles, birds, animals. These are of my own. Of course, the pattern is of your choosing and always was. It's the weaving form of what in-law said. You make your own life. But I believed. He believed what? He believed they were what?
Weaving his life for him.
He believed they were the fates. And fate is something you cannot escape. They told him, not fate. You make your fate. You make your destiny. You make your life. I did believe the world went at your bidding. I see now it is not so. The strands of life are not woven by 3 hags or even by 3 beautiful, sorry, I didn't mean to call you hags, beautiful damsels. The pattern indeed was mine. But here he said, it's not finished. Duh. You're not dead. You must still choose the pattern. So must each of you poor, perplexed fledglings. Who is the each of you poor, perplexed fledglings? It's us. That's all humanity. Taryn, but I don't see mine clearly. That is, I don't see my purpose clearly. Who does? I'm nearly 58. I still wonder, what should I do when I grow up? I've been doing this 27 years. Okay? No longer do I understand my own heart. Why does my grief shadow my joy? What's he mean? I don't know my own heart. Why can't he sleep? He's got it all. Right? He's got everything made for him. Beautiful girl. Land where he doesn't die. All happiness and joy. Man, he's got everything. But he stays out there, he stays at that window all night. Next morning, people come out. And Taryn says, page 236, never shall I have greater honor than the gift you offer me. Last night my heart was troubled. I dreamed that Orthu, no, it wasn't a dream. She was really here. I can't take your gift. Gurgi's like, no, master, don't be a damn fool. Eilonwy, do you know what you're saying? Has the flame of Derwent scorched your wits? I understand. In the summer country we were to be wed, you still question my heart. Oh, you don't think I want to marry you? Don't worry about that. Taryn, you are wrong, Princess of Lear. Oh, he addresses her by her title. I have long loved you and loved you even before I knew that I loved you. If my heart breaks to part from our companions, it breaks twice over to part from you. Yet so it must be. I cannot do otherwise. And she's got to be sitting there going, I don't get this. Man. Dalvin, you sure? Once taken, your choice cannot be recalled. Will you dwell in sorrow instead of happiness? Will you refuse not only joy and love, but never-ending life? What did Taliesin tell him about his wisdom? Sorrow, loss, and grief. He says it's the hardest kind, but it also produces the greatest wisdom. So you're going to give away joy, you're going to give away happiness, you're going to give away immortality. Taryn, and this is the part that gets me every stinking time. There are those more deserving of your gift than I. Yet never may it be offered them. And who's he thinking of?
Paul. Adium.
He could be standing where Call would have been buried. Call, Adium, Rune, Lasser, Lanio. I mean, the list goes on, really. My life is bound to theirs. Call, son of Call, for whose garden and orchard lie barren, waiting for a hand to quicken them. My skill is less than his, but I give it willingly for his sake. Here's all the joy in the world. Nope. Because of Call, I will sacrifice all that. The seawall at Dennis Ridnet, it's unfinished. Before the king of Mona's burial mount, I vowed not to leave his task undone. He pulls out the pottery that Anlaw made. Shall I forget Anlaw Clayshaper, Comet Marin, and others like it? I cannot restore to life Lanio, son of Lonwyn, and those valiant folk who followed me, never to see their homes again, nor can I mend the hearts of widows and orphan children. I can't bring them back if I had a cauldron, Yet if it is in my power to rebuild even a little of what has been broken, this must I do. Notice, to rebuild what's been broken, not to replace what's been lost. Why? Because what's lost is lost. It cannot. The red fallows once were a fruitful place. With labor, perhaps they shall be so again. He doesn't know that that's possible. But he's saying, I'm going to try. Caerdathel's proud halls lie in ruins. With them the hall of lore, the treasured wisdom of the bards. Have you not said that memory lives longer than what it remembers? What if memory be lost? What if all that memory that is in that hall is lost for good? Because he's saying it's not. It's still there. It just needs to be rescued. If there are those who will help me, we will raise the fallen stones and regain the treasure of memory. Gurgi will help. Why? Because Gurgi never thinks of himself. What did Taliesin say? Kind and good. Kind always thinks of something else. Good, that's just a moral quality. Okay? He wants no gift that takes him from kindly master. Taryn, no. You go with the others. You call me master? Okay, obey me this one last time. Find the wisdom you yearn for. In other words, you will become what you want to be. What is it, the Navy? Be all you can be? Army? That's what'll do it for you. Eilonwy, you've chosen as you must, Taryn of Caerdalvin. What does she mean? See ya. I mean, that's what that sounds like, right? Dalvin, you sure? It's going to be hard. No certainty you will accomplish even one. Much risk you will fail in all of them. How's that for a rousing, psyching him up? Way to go, Taryn. You'll probably fail at everything. In either case, your efforts may well go unrewarded, unsung, forgotten. Dalvin there is getting at a really important point. Lots of times when people do great things, they do it why? So people will know. He's saying, you might try all this, and nobody will ever know. And at the end, like all mortals, you must face your death. Perhaps without even a mound of honor. You might face your death alone, and your body exposed to the elements, and nobody to mark your resting place. I argue in a lot of my classes. If there's one thing people want before they die, it's for the world to know they lived. Period. It's to leave a mark. Some people leave great marks. Beethoven's, Bach's, Mozart's. Some people leave great marks. Stalin's, Hitler's, Mao's. Right?
We all know them.
We will never forget Hitler. We'll never forget Stalin. Not great moral great, large great. Taryn, so be it. Long ago I yearned to be a hero without knowing in truth what a hero was. Could be, not saying it is, could be ultimate moral of all the stories. Now perhaps I understand it a little better. A grower of turnips or shaper of clay, a comet farmer or a king. Every man is a hero if he strives more for others than for himself alone. Who did he just call a hero? Gurgi. All throughout these books, Gurgi never strives for himself. He's just said Gurgi is a hero, even though Gurgi isn't a man. Who else? Well, obviously, Taryn, and Gwydion, and Fluter, and Dalvin, and Call, and Lasser. If he strives more for others than for himself alone, once you told me that the seeking counts more than the finding. So too must the striving count more than the gain. The working for must count more than what is found, what is sought. I hope for a glorious destiny. That dream vanished with my childhood. Pleasant dream, fit for a child. I'm content as an assistant pig keeper. In other words, he has discovered there is honor, there is more honor in a field well plowed than in a field steeped in blood. Dalvin, nope, you don't get that kind of honor. That contentment won't be yours. You're High King. What? I just want to be an assistant pig keeper. Nope, you got to be High King. Because what comes with being High King? Government, responsibility, people coming up to you like, gimme, 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 gimme. Right? He says, are you mocking me? Your worth was proved when you drew Durnwin. Your kingliness when you chose to remain here. How so? What did he think about that showed he deserves to be a king? Think Rune and what Eilonwy tells him.
He gave everything up.
She says you got to think of the people. He says, I am. But I'm also thinking of Taryn. Taryn gives everything. He sacrifices himself, ultimately. Right? Taryn, why? Dalvin, it's in the Book of 3. The Book of 3 is already written. And Dalvin said, and I saw it there. Okay? Could the Book of 3 have deceived you? He says, nope, can't. It tells all three parts of our lives, past, present, future. You could call it the Book of If. Okay? So they keep talking. Dalvin says, I pondered all this stuff when you were dropped off, blah, 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 blah. And I've been carrying this with me, in says, I heard the cry, found you, etc., etc. I'm skipping a bunch. And he gives him the book of 3. And we're told, page 243, they find the secrets of forging, the secrets of shaping, the secrets of weaving, and all this. Page 244 at the bottom. Dalton says, take the book of 3. Taryn, I can't. It will not blister your fingers. All its pages are open to you. The book of 3 no longer foretells what is to come, only what has been. Now can be set down the words of its last page. And thus did an assistant keeper become High King of Predan. Okay? Taryn gives them Dernwin. Gwydion says, nope, you got to keep it. Evil is conquered. The blade's work's done. Okay, just because he's High King doesn't mean he becomes a philosopher king. He's still not very bright. Gwydion. Evil conquered. No. What? You still have to do that. You've conquered the enchantments of evil. 245. Sorry for going a little over. That was the easiest. Do you believe evil itself to be so quickly overcome? Not so long as men still hate and slay each other when greed and anger goad them. Against those, even a flaming sword will do nothing. Only that portion of good in all men's hearts. Against that, even a flaming sword cannot prevail. Only a portion of good in all men's hearts, whose flame can never be quenched. Eilonwy goes to offer him the bauble. And then says, it's not fair! And just, throws one of her tantrums. Dalton's like, you want to stay? Yes! Okay. And he tells her what to do. Take your ring. Take the ring you've been wearing, and it'll grant you a wish. One wish. Evil cannot be conquered by wishing. The ring will serve. In other words, you can't say, I wish that all evil in the world be wiped away and Taryn have a perfect, peaceful reign. Won't work. It'll serve only you. It'll grant the deepest wish of your own heart. Turn it once and wish what you want. She does, and the light goes out in the bauble that Taryn's been holding. Are they gone? Yep. What's the wish?
Give up her powers.
Why?
She's no longer an enchantress.
Because then she can't go to the summer country. And she can stay with Taryn. And so they lived many happy years. Promised tasks were accomplished, yet long afterward, when all passed away, there were many who wondered whether King Taryn, Queen Eilonwy, and their companions had indeed walked the earth, blah, 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 blah. And it ends. Okay. Like I said, totally different from the next series. Next series is a lot darker, a lot more real world kind of issues. Well, to some extent. Other than demons being all around.
I read really brief description summaries for all of these before I got them, and I'm really looking forward to them.
Oh, I love the Bartimaeus. Jonathan Stroud is a wonderful author.
Wait, what's the series called again?
The next series is the Bartimaeus